Hello and welcome to Striding Edge Games, and we are here with a special event recap of the Scouring of Cheshire 2025. I'm Boris,
I
and,
am Julian.
we have a special guest star, Thomas,
I,
friend of the
I am
channel.
Thomas, yeah.
Hello, Thomas. For those who don't know, I think this is your first appearance on the channel, Thomas. You have been a long-standing friend of the channel and helped us out in the background. You are our eponymous Discord mod and basically helped set us up the channel because both of us were too uh, disinterested. I couldn't be bothered with social media.
Scatterbrained?
Maybe something like that. We were too busy working
Important.
on Brie.
Too
Important, definitely.
important.
This is part of a new format where we're recording things online, so you can see our lovely headsets, sitting at home. Um, Regular viewers will probably recognise Julian's bookshelves behind him, but we're each
No,
at our
because
regular
they
homes.
you can't see those because they're over
Well, there
there.
we go. They're too far away. Who knows? Um, but we're recording at home. One, to make it a little bit easier on our friends and family. Two, to bring out videos a little bit faster than they have been before because it allows us to do things at home. And three, we're recording this online as a video, but we're also publishing this as a podcast. So for those of you listening at home, hello and welcome. This will be the first of many, lots, who knows,
Some.
an amount of videos on the game, breakdowns of factions, and event recaps, which we're starting with today. So I think that's most of a quick run through. As we said, we've just come back from the Scouring of Cheshire. Three of us just spent 50 something hours in each other's presence, played 6 games or 18 games in total between the three of us of Middle Earth, a strategy battle game, and we did fine, not great, but better than expected.
You two did better than I did.
Maybe. So, Jules, for those who don't know, take us through what is Scouring of Cheshire as
Yeah.
an event.
I mean, to be clear, it is Cheshire because it is a
Cheshire,
joke, but it's actually Cheshire if you're an
Cheshire.
English person. Um,
Well, yeah,
it's an event run at Stockport at the Northwest Gaming Centre, which is also attached to Element Games. It is an 800 point format of Middle Earth strategy battle game. And this year was the first year with the new rules, new lists, and was just in general like a great event. I think it's
yeah,
the first time for any of us to have attended it.
yep. It's a bit of a dirt journey because we're all softy Southerners, and
All
it's
Southerners.
up in Stockport near Manchester, so it's a little bit of a journey, but it was a good excuse for a trip away.
It was a very
Uh,
pleasant 3.5 hours discussing all
yeah,
sorts of subjects with both of you.
I mean, it was mostly Middle Earth. We sat in the car and discussed
It
Middle
was
Earth on the
mostly
way up and down,
Middle Earth.
didn't we?
Yeah.
It's not like we have a one-track mind. Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, very well summarized. Um, as part of we've been trying to go to more events as the channel, as it were. You can notice our lovely shirts. So we all attended with as Striding Edge Games. We kind of, I think you set up, didn't you, Thomas? You registered it so we can be.
Yes, I think I went through a little bit of a admin. I don't know what you'd call it, a frenzy. I set up Striding Edge games on both Longshanks and on Best Coast pairings,
Oh,
so you
So
sweet.
should
yeah,
always
That
be able
second
to
one.
see us on those. Yeah.
I mean,
Didn't
for
even know that one.
those who are unclear, I mean, I feel like Thomas is potentially positioning himself for a Stalin-like takeover of the whole
Oh, I
channel.
see.
Like
He
he
does
puts
have the
himself,
most noticeable facial hair of all three of us.
yeah, puts himself in charge of all the sort of bureaucracy, and then in time he'll be the general secretary.
Yep.
Um,
We'll find ourselves locked out of all the accounts. Knock on the door at the night. Yeah, so that's we went along, we attended, we had excellent games, and generally it's just a blast. I think if you're listening to this and wondering, I think tickets have what early bird tickets are up for 2026. They're also running. Putting myself on the spot now, a doubles and a team and a narrative event
Yep.
all through
I
the
think that
year.
was what Darren said. Yeah.
I can't say personally about the rest because I haven't been, but as a singles event, it was a blast and I would hardly recommend it. So if you are thinking about it, definitely jump in. Um, I think that's enough about the event. It was a great event. the three of us, as prep far too late in the day, we all decided to do relatively new armies, I think.
Well,
So we all
Tom,
took fresh. Uh, yeah, we all took fresh 800 point armies ish. Thomas, you expanded one. So should we go through quickly what armies we took to the event? Jules, you lead us off.
yeah, so I mean, I had some indecisiveness about which particular army I was going to take. We do have a number of already, ready to go 800-point armies, and I was like, no, that's boring. I should paint 800 points of Lothlorien in like a week and a half. Um,
Yeah, they're wearing pajamas, right? It's
yeah,
easy.
I
so
mean,
so
I
I did that.
recall some flirting with Breaking of Fellowship and Pajama Elves.
Well, that's how it started. I was like, oh, I could do the Breaking of the Fellowship quite easily. I'm glad I didn't because there was like 4 Breaking of the Fellowship lists.
It's yeah.
Um, but so then I did Lothlorien. There was also quite a lot of Lothlorien lists, but none of us. Well, actually, a slight spoiler is Thomas and I ended up matched against each other.
Yes,
Um, but
it was a striding edge grudge match.
it
But
was a Striding Edge Grudge X. So I
I
took
think three.
I think there was 3 Lothlorien. So I
Yeah,
ended up with yeah, a quite standard Lothlorien list. It's got the classics at 800 points: Celeborn, Galadriel with the mirror, Haldir, a good chunk of armored elves, but I also dabbled with the pajama elves and had quite a lot of bows overall. I think
yeah.
including Haldir, there was 14 bows, 5 throwing weapons.
I was going to say altogether with throwing weapons, it was almost half the list, right?
Yeah, it was 40 models total, 19 of which had ranged attacks. Uh,
And having played a test game against it, it was not fun.
mm,
But it was,
Nasty re-rolling strength 3 ranged
yeah,
attacks as well.
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
sometimes re-rolling to hit.
Sometimes re-rolling.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, having seen it up close, I am also, um, I think definitely you are now on the army painting pedestal for the channel, Jules. Your faces for some of your army are excellent, and actually, I think the speed at which you painted them is very impressive. I definitely couldn't have done. Um, but yeah, all round really good. We'll have some photos up. Thomas, take us through. You had Reclamation of Osgiliath.
Yeah, so I guess for more context on my background, I have not been in the Middle Earth arena as long as you two.
And we haven't
So
been around too long.
you guys have been around, yeah, probably a little long in the tooth, but yeah, I picked up most of the channel's Gondor models, and then you very kindly painted Boromir with his on his horse with his banner for me. Julian had already painted a lovely Faramir that I used last year at Greetings for the War at the Frying Pan event, and then yeah, it sort of came together with that. I managed to gather up, I think, 2 boxes of Osgiliath veterans. You provided a third one. I painted all those up, and that was a nice little Osgiliath force ready to go.
Nice. And that's what caught your eye, and because obviously you used it last edition, but then the new edition came out with the sort of all legendary legions, as it were, and that's what
Yeah,
caught your eye. You
I
obviously
think
like Gondor already.
I think there's a few Gondor ones that I quite like. I don't weirdly I don't like the default Minas list as much as I do the Reclamation and Atop the Walls. I think those are much more thematic.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's a pretty rounded list. It has so like I said, it was led by Boromir or Bannermere on horse. Had a good mixture of Osgiliath veterans who sadly did not use their Hatred Mordor rule once a weekend,
Oh well.
and then yeah, had Faramir, Madril for some Maelstrom tactics, and a captain. And I do it's made me fall in love with captains a whole
I
new
mean,
way.
the game is won by heroic marches sometimes on that regular unnamed captain. Um, and it's how many models was it?
I think it was about 41
Okay,
models.
and a
I,
decent number of bows.
I did not have as many bows as Julian did, obviously,
Wow.
and the shooting is a lot weaker. But yeah, there was a good number of rangers I slipped in there because I wanted some ability to pepper people,
Yeah,
and it did
sure.
actually come in handy at one point. We'll get into that later. Yeah, so it was nice to have that. But
Yeah.
Osgiliath Bowman, sadly, not very good.
Well, so I, to round it off, was going to take a Rohan army. I've got 500 points painted up quite nicely. It's my sort of passion project, slow burn that I've taken to a few Warhammer World events. It's 500 points, and I needed to paint. I think it was Gambling with the Banner, Airmer, and 6 riders or something like that to get me to 800 points. And I thought that's nice and easy. On a completely unrelated trip, happened to stop by Warhammer World about a month and a half ago, and saw that they had the 3 trolls on the shelf that me and Jules had thought we might want to grab at some point just for fun. Bought them, took them home, had a good look at them, and went, you know what? Then I'd only have to paint 3 models to have an entire army. Maybe I could do that. And I've never really played with hero and monster heavy lists before. So what the hell? So I painted 3 trolls, a campfire, and 4 sheep, which we'll get onto later. For
And
my
Boromir on horse
and
in a
okay,
week.
yes, I did paint Boromir on horse for you, but he wasn't too bad. But painted 3 trolls. It was wild. They were a lot of fun. Weren't particularly competitive, but it was great fun. Um, in terms of list, basically the way the 3 trolls work, if you don't know, is the 3 trolls together are 400 points, so they're a minimum 400 point army. You get a campfire, which gives you a bonus, and then the rest of the army list is upgrades. Each upgrade is 50 points, and I think there are 10, 12, something like that.
I think it's 12 because you can get to
12.
1,000 points.
So you can,
Exactly.
and each one gives the army an upgrade, and you get to 1,000 points, up to 1,000 points. So I thought, why not? I'll take all but 4 of the upgrades, and that is an 800 point list. So we did have some test games. I played both of these guys with their lists, and went all right.
Sorry.
Tweaked what the list was a little bit, but basically I put some sheep in. Um, very broadly, they get more and more powerful, but they're still 9 wounds. Each with three models, 3 wounds each in the entire army list. So if they start going down, they go down hard. But if they're all monsters with might, will, and fate. So if they're doing well, you can do all sorts of shenanigans with uh, brutal power attacks, and they just have so many rules. I felt a bit sorry for my opponents having to explain 1,000,001 rules under the sun, but then at the same time, only had 3 models. Um, I think the most important one is probably one of the trolls. It's Bill, Bert, and Tom. And Tom has a cold. I don't remember in the movie. He's got a cold and he can sneeze. He has a ability where he can sneeze on a model and half their fight value. So I kept track of who I sneezed on over the entire event, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, those are our lists. I think we'll go straight into the games really, and it'll be a good example of, or we'll do a run through, not all of them, but most of them. Um, I guess quick touch on the venue. How did you guys find? Because it was in Element Games effectively, which I've always known of, but I've never been to. How did you find the venue, the setup, Darren, the organizer, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a decent setup. Um, they've got a nice range of some quite attractive, really well-made tables.
Yeah,
That some of us were. I think we all played a game on a decent table at least. I think I was lucky enough to get two games on
yeah,
a nice table. And then some more tables which are more your neoprene mats and a few bits of terrain. Uh,
yeah. They did a really good job. Darren, the organizer, did a really good job of the one end of the table is sort of one to da, 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 and then the top tables, as it were, and then the other end is the high numbers. Swapping the numbers, so each round the draws, even no matter where you are on the table, bottom, mid, top, you do have a pretty good chance of playing on the really nice proper
mm.
scenery tables, which is really great. Um, Also home of Top Table Gaming, the pretty famous YouTube and sort of streaming channel. They've got their studio there, which we were able to have a look at and spoilers play a game in, which was really cool.
Well, you did.
Um, I did, yeah. We, the
Specifically
channel,
you.
we, the channel, but I wasn't going to skip ahead
The
for that
royal
bit.
we.
Royal we.
The
Yeah.
royal we. Um,
Jinx.
and yeah, just I think a really good, really decent venue. We had our first in-person uh, recognition,
Fan recognition.
fan
Yeah.
recognition, which is real weird, but hey,
On the
thank you.
very first morning as well,
Very
wasn't it? It
first
wasn't
morning.
even delayed. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, was it?
shout out to other Julian.
I was about to say it was another Julian, wasn't it? Yeah,
I
very
think there
nice of
was
you.
more than two Julians at the event as well. So I mean,
Very strange, but hey ho. So yeah, we got there. Everything was pretty great. The only thing was there wasn't really enough time to browse the pretty huge stock and element games, but
yeah,
we all came away with some goodies, I think, which is the main thing.
I was
And
going to
then we
say we
played.
made time, didn't we?
We did make
On
time.
occasion, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We played the six basic, I say basic, or the standard match play scenarios in the rulebook at the moment. Obviously, we're still waiting for the match play guide, so we're only on six. There were six games, three each day. So we played one of each, which was quite nice and reassuring in a way because you knew exactly which ones were still left in the pool.
mm.
Um, Not necessarily to try and win as hard as you can, but you knew which ones maybe you were dreading coming up. So we'll go through the rounds. And round one was destroy the supplies. I won't go through the missions because I'm sure most of you know it, but there are three markers on either side, and you have to try and destroy each other's supply markers along with all the usual secondaries. We had Jules versus Men of the West. Uh, I faced Breaking of the Fellowship, which was, side note, actually really gorgeous. Ended up winning the best painted at the event. So I've forgotten your name, player,
I think it
but
was Robert, wasn't it?
it might have been Rob. Yeah, fantastically painted army. So congratulations again. And Thomas, you take us through. You played the Muster of Isengard. How was your game?
Yeah, so I'd have loved to go against a nice chap called Alex. Definitely one of my more enjoyable games of the weekend. Mainly because it became a very interesting shield wall off. So he took a muster. So like you say, he took Muster of Isengard, led with Saruman. There was a sneaky little Grima in there, which ruined my day right from the beginning. And then he had two captains, which in Muster of Isengard they get the free heroic march. So
Oh
it was
yeah.
immediately we were straight into it. It was we drew up our battle lines. Saruman hid at the back in the middle. Faramir held my middle side, and then Boromir crept up my right hand side of the board with the captain. Madril had a little clash on the left, which he lost, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a really fun game. In the end, it was a pretty firm loss for me. Didn't couldn't get anywhere near Saruman, which meant that Grima couldn't be touched because I didn't have any magic. And Grima was more than happy to destroy my supplies. And in the very last round, Madril's flank failed, and a single Urukai managed to charge all the way down into the supplies. Faramir just made it to the middle supplies because Saruman had sort of dodged off to his left, my right, and yeah, Faramir made it into the middle and was immediately crossbowed. So pretty much what you expect against a Muster of Isengard list. But yeah, it was really well played by my opponent. I really enjoyed that one. Boromir managing to fail his Horn of Gondor against a Berserker is not really a surprise.
Yeah.
So probably something I should have realized sooner. And yeah, the Berserkers were surprisingly effective. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
something of a
Sadly.
theme. I mean, I played two Muster of Isengard lists. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Was did you?
think I did not play an Isengard faction
It's
all day. I don't think, but there was one in the top five, I believe. Was it Army of the White
I
Hand?
think it was
Yeah,
Army of the White
Army
Hand,
of the
which
White
was
Hand
run
was in the
by
top.
top
Yeah,
five.
yeah,
Yeah.
run by Natalie. But
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
there were. I think we counted them up. Oh, in fact, Longshanks does a breakdown, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I've got the
considering it
breakdown. It is 8
was
Muster of Isengard, and then where was the Army of the White Hand?
Two Muster of the Army of the White Hand, two Assault on Helm's Deep, and the Usurpers of Edoras. So
There
yeah,
you
well
go.
into the sort of double digits of Isengard players, which is really interesting. I wonder if it's because they're the latest faction to have a kit along with Rohan with the Hill Tribes, or if it's just because
I I personally think it's because they're one of the most or one of the factions that got the most tools from the new list building.
hmm,
You know, we've set Muster of Isengard is a really thematic and fun list with the captains getting the heroic march and the heroic strike.
yeah,
Um, Army of the White Hand is again quite fun with the new kit of the Wildman. So yeah, I can understand why it's popular at the moment.
Yeah.
And Grima as well is very effective, as I learnt to my cost in that first game. Yeah.
I think Isengard just may be the sexiest evil in the movie. I mean,
I think even as a Rohan player, I have to admit that. I think they're just pretty cool, and
yeah,
they have a bit of everything. They've got, scraggly little hill tribe beardy men, all the way up to sort of hulking berserkers,
mm.
giant crossbow, ballistas, actual crossbows, bombs, super magic, a bit of cavalry. They've got a bit of everything. Um,
That said, I don't
and
think there was a single Lurtz's or Ugluk scouts.
good
No,
point.
I don't
Yeah, I
think there
don't
was.
think so, but if there was, we might have missed them. But yeah, it's a good point. I guess because they're more restricted, it's just literally some heroes and
Mm.
some scouts, and maybe some orcs. But yeah, really interesting. Did you think there was anything you could have done, or is this one of those one? This is Thomas. Do you think or was it lost at deployment slash matchup?
I definitely think there's some things I could have done differently, but it really was because my opponent kept Saruman safe. It was always going to be impossible for me to stop Grima. I think
Yeah,
the only chance I would have had, I think, is if I was more aggressive, pushed in a lot harder, maybe pushed Boromir a lot further into their line
yeah.
to try and take out Saruman. I think that would have probably been my best option. But yeah, I was fair enough. I will fully admit that I am
Oh
not
yeah,
the best player here. Probably not the best player anywhere. I have got a wooden spoon award after all. So
I'm
yeah,
jealous. I mean, I will say this is your second, third ever
I
Middle
think
Earth
it's
event.
my third event actually. Yeah,
Mm.
after Greetings from the Warp and our little Warhammer
And
World
your
weekday event.
Yeah,
sort
Yeah,
of your first serious event.
a serious event. Yeah,
yeah,
my first 2-dayer I think
yeah. It wasn't
is the
a
best way to say.
GBHL sort of 100 top tier, but it was a 2-dayer with some
Yeah, and
pretty tough lists
there was
and tough players.
80 plus players
Yeah.
Yeah,
total. There were some drops
So
spread across
yeah,
the 2 days, but it was still significant.
yeah. So I think it was a loss all the round. All three of us lost the first round, so that was a nice, easy. In some ways, when you're at an event where you're not sure if you're going to do very well, it's quite nice because it sort of sets the expectations low. You drop down the tables a little bit, and your second match might be a bit more
Mm.
forgiving. So round two
oh well,
was
hang on a
oh
second. I wanted
apologies.
to know how your game with the three trolls went against the Breaking of the Fellowship.
Oh well, I got tabled. So
As you would expect in Destroy the Supplies when you have 3 models.
yeah. Yeah, I did. We played. I think we played Destroy Supplies as
Oh
a
dear.
test mission, and I tried to march the trolls forward, and it just didn't go very well at all. So in this one, I basically decided to do goalkeeping, and I just sat on my supplies and didn't even try to attack the fellowships. Um, One huge upgrade that I think is really necessary is the nighttime Cover of Darkness. I forget the name of it, but it
Mm.
makes it so it's night fighting. You can only shoot and take magical abilities within 12 inches, and the trolls gain +1 to wound when they throw their stones. But they don't receive +1 to wound because they're cave dwellers. So they weren't able to sit and shoot me with pajama rolls and Legolas super well, but basically they had Aragorn, Gimli, Boromir, and a bunch of nice elves with two-handed weapons. It didn't go very well. It held on for a little while, and I think Bert was the last one standing, but it did end in a tabling. I scored uh, 3 points, I think, for killing Aragorn with a and I wounded him with a very lucky throw stone, turn 2 or something. But yeah, nothing too much to report.
I mean, well, you scored more points than me or Thomas, but you also lost
Yeah,
more
you
than
did.
me or
Oh, that's
Thomas.
true. Well, I
Um,
was tabled, so
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So,
it can very easily happen with 3 models. So yes. Well, yeah. So zooming on to round two, it was. I keep wanting to say dominate Dominion. It was domination. So the standard, I think of as basically the standard uh, mission of 5 objectives. You hold them at the end of the game. You gain VPs, and you have all the standard secondaries. Um, it was myself. I then got drawn against the Depths of Moria with a Balrog,
the less spoken
which
of
was
that, the better, really.
yeah. it was my second tabling in 2 games. Very quick. I think it was a 25-minute game, not including sort of setup and rules explaining. The Balrog killed 2 trolls in a one turn with a heroic combat. It just didn't go very well. But my opponent was very gracious, bought me a drink afterwards, and remarked that it wasn't a very good matchup for us, and I agreed. Um, but so that was that. Thomas, you faced Radagast's Alliance. You were, I think, the only person to face Eagles, the dreaded Eagles,
The dreaded
being
Eagles.
the meta at the moment. How did you find that?
So I actually had it was only the 6 models. So it was Radagast on an eagle, 2 fledglings, Guahir, regular eagle, and then my most hated enemy of all, Bjorn,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, so it
skin
wasn't a
changer.
pure Eagles list, which is what seems to be the frowned upon list at the moment, but it was an Eagles with friends list.
In fact, there
Yeah.
wasn't a single. Oh no, there
I
was
think there was
one
one.
Eagles,
Yeah.
but there was a couple of lists with Eagles.
Yes, I
Yes. Yeah.
think
Because
Radagast was fairly popular. Yeah, there were 3
there's
Radagast
quite a
models
few
published.
lists which Eagles can now slot into. So I know
Mhm.
Men of the West can take them with Gandalf.
Thorin's
There's
Company.
obviously the Radagast Alliance and the Eagles ones. I think there's another one, isn't there? I can't remember.
I don't know, but this
Possibly.
is a good list.
Yeah,
Um,
How
it's a
was
good
your
list
game?
of. So it was interesting. So we actually ended up being in like charging range within deployment, which was interesting,
Hmm.
and I managed to get a very juicy surround on Guahir quite early. Did a lot of damage to him, burned most of his might, which really hurt my opponent quite badly. Boromir leapt in to fight. I think it was a fledgling. Did a lot of damage to the fledgling. Then the fledgling did what fledglings do and flew away, and
Hmm.
Bjorn charged into Boromir instead, and ate Boromir for lunch,
Yep.
which was to be expected. There was lots of careful play by my opponent. I think Radagast could have been positioned a little bit better, but he did use all of the Eagles to hurl models into poor Boromir, who
Yep.
was knocked from his horse and then proceeded to be wailed on. So Boromir died in the middle of a for Gondor call, so I lost my +1 to wound and my banner, and everyone after that it just sort of went sideways for me.
Yep. You did bring down some
I
Eagles though.
I did manage to take down a fledgling with a surround from lots of Gondor warriors and Faramir, and then Faramir, captain of Gondor, showed his quality by killing Gwaihir, very luckily,
That's a
which
pretty
was
impressive scalp. Not quite a scalp, but yeah, I would.
it's a
It's
good
very
kill
impressive.
to take. Yeah, so
I would say.
um, in the end, the reason I lost is because I shouldn't really have lost to a list like this on domination of all maps. I
Well.
managed to I broke, so
Mm,
models started fleeing. The Eagles just simply flew away to some objectives, and
yep.
at the very end, Bjorn managed to kill a model and ran. I think he heroic combated and just fled straight into the middle with
Yep.
that very last move. And I could not stop him in the slightest. It was very frustrating.
Well.
But there you go. I did hold 2 objectives out of 3,
Yeah.
so it
I
wasn't a
think
complete loss.
looking at the stats, it was the closest 7-14. So I mean, you scored half the points of your opponent, but it was the closest any of us had come to equaling our opponent that day. So you did the best out of us so far out of 2 games. Jules, what was
hmm.
your game? You were against the Black Gate Opens. Is that the one?
Yeah, I mean that was the same. So it was a Blackgate Opens list with double, the Super Troll Chieftain and then the
Ah,
normal
yep.
Troll Chieftain.
Right.
Um, and honestly, actually, I think I really kind of just lost this game because I did not think about the fact that the Super Troll Chieftain has got dominant 4.
Ah,
Uh, and I had the opportunity to move Galadriel on the last turn, so she would be on the objective, which would have meant that I would have got that objective. And in fact, I didn't. So it was a very close loss. It was 3-6.
yeah.
Um,
So again, actually, the closest. Sorry, well, not Thomas. Thomas was the closest. Then you were the closest.
yeah.
Only losing by 3 points.
And it was kind of a case of uh, the trolls just got transfixed for like 5 turns, 6 turns.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
I think they got to fight in one combat when they were transfixed, both of them, and then the rest of the time I just left them transfixed. I killed one of them, but it was not the general, which would have again won me it. Uh, and I felt a little bit dirty, just continuously transfixing to his like key
Yeah,
units. But at the same time, I mean, the Blackgate has the ability, so you have to take an intelligence check on one of your models, and if you fail, the evil player controls them.
right.
So my banner, despite the fact that elves have got decent intelligence, just continuously failed it. It only got to move twice, and he kept running it off to the edge of the board, so it wasn't involved in the combats. Um,
Right.
but yeah,
That's
it was a funny game.
good.
The
I
elves
mean, yeah, I wouldn't feel dirty about it. That's basically your list's trick is I have transfixes.
double transfix, which is pretty
I have
wild.
double transfixes every
Um,
turn just to do it. I mean, obviously we have talked about on the channel before whether or not transfix is a fun thing to play against, but it wasn't, it wasn't like you were there to play a friendly. You're still your duty is to give your opponent your best game possible. So when they win, they've won fairly and they can be proud of the fact. I always think anyway.
yeah,
Um, but
I
yeah,
think it's
really
one of the
interesting.
scariest things about Lothlorien is their magic. It's
Well,
what
yeah.
makes the list so well balanced, right? Is you've got the really nice elf warriors, the really good shooting, and then the really good magic from Galadriel and Celeborn.
I mean, I go
Yeah.
so far as to say it's kind of what makes the list work.
Yeah,
Because certainly at the
Yeah.
moment with Lothlorien, I think it's an interesting list to play. But Haldir is not what I would describe as a combat hero. He's not bad in
He's
combat, but
he's fine.
he's got one fate.
Mm.
Um, and he doesn't have you know anything to really offset that. You can give him the heavy armor, sure, but
I like to think of him as a slightly better captain, basically.
yeah,
And he has access to strike. I think it's the two shots with he has sharpshooter, right?
yeah. I mean, he has a sort of like a. I think I mean it's like Legolas in the past. He's in a slightly awkward position of you kind of want him to be shooting, you also need him in combat.
Yep, for sure, for
And
sure.
especially in the Lothlorien list, he is your only serious fighter. Now Celeborn has been cruelly nerfed.
Yes,
Um,
and Rumil and Orifin, is it?
yeah,
Are
Rumel and Orphin
still
aren't available
waiting in the
until
wings.
the new book.
Yep.
Um,
So
so
for
that
a
might
while,
change.
it's just Haldir at the moment. But no, it sounds really interesting. Did he have the Mouth of Sauron, or was it just the trolls?
Yeah, because now the mouth is you have to take him in a list.
Okay.
The mouth sucks though.
Okay. You didn't suffer much counter magic
I
then.
had very little trouble with counter magic,
Okay.
because
who'd have thought?
the entire Lothlorien army gets resistant to magic,
Oh,
and the
okay.
mouth I think only has 3 will.
Yeah, three or four or five maybe
But he's got
tops.
very low amounts of will. I think he might have transfixed. He's also got a poor spell selection. I think he transfixed on a 4 up.
Okay.
Whereas again, Lothlorien, you've got transfix on Galadriel and Celeborn, and it's a 3 up on both of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, fair. Interesting. Well, yeah, so we had round two, another three losses. At 0-6 at the moment as an event uh team. But to be honest, I don't think we'd had a bad game yet. Um and that's really good to know. So the third game in the afternoon, things get interesting. Fog of War. So again, I won't go into the details, but it is you pick a target to kill secretly, you pick a target of yours to keep alive secretly, and you pick a terrain piece to capture by the end of the game secretly, plus all the secondaries. Um, the target can't be your general for the kill and the defend, unless you only have one model, one hero. So a bit of a sneaky one. I really like it. I think it's probably out of the three we played on day one, it's my favorite. Um, Going through the list, Jules, you came up against another Muster of Isengard. How was that in brief?
yeah, I mean that was my first Master of Isengard. Um, it it was a loss for me, but it was quite close in the end. Saruman
10,
basically
13.
10-13. Saruman spent all of the game hiding behind a building, which was really funny. He kept moving out, casting a spell, and then ducking back in. Um, in many ways, I think he didn't actually do that much to really affect the game.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I'd chosen the wrong Uruk High Captain to kill,
Ah,
um, and guessed the wrong side of the terrain piece in question. I did have a really farcical game of Galadriel kept moving to try and see Wormtongue, so she could compel him into combat, which is
right.
a fun as a Lothlorien player. It's one way that you can actually fix Wormtongue.
Yeah,
So they kept basically dancing back and forth trying to see each other, um, or hide from each other. But I did get him in the end. But it turned out he also was not the model that was being kept alive.
right,
Um,
right. So the three of us faced two Greemers on day one.
yeah, well, I mean, you're
Yeah.
always going to have him in the muster, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
um,
Thomas, you faced the Army of the White Hand, another Isengard list.
Oh no,
That
that
was,
was game 4. That
that
was
was
oh,
game
my
sorry,
game
I'm
four.
reading ahead.
3.
Return
It
of the
was
King.
Return of the King. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is one of the first times I've actually played against ghosts, which is
Mhm.
quite exciting actually. But it was kind of the what seems to be the new standard, which is Aragorn, King of the Dead, and Legolas.
Yeah,
Um,
why wouldn't you, eh?
yeah, so that was kind of that was interesting to say the least, because I knew that Legolas would definitely try and snipe a target whenever he could. So it meant that in this scenario, because I wanted to obviously try and keep my heroes alive, I didn't really want him to be able to do that. Fortunately, there's no way you can stop Legolas.
Yeah.
So yeah, so let me have a think. So I chose a piece of terrain that was on the left side of my board. Later into the middle of the game, I thought that might have been the wrong choice, but turned out to be the right one. And then I chose to kill, funnily enough, not Legolas, because I thought he'd keep Legolas at the back and shoot. I chose to kill the King of the Dead because I knew he'd throw the King of the Dead straight into it.
Sure.
Um, Obviously, the King of the Dead is not easy to kill, but obviously it worked out in my favor. I managed to get Boromir into him, managed to do some nice slaughtering.
Nice.
Lastly, what was it? So you do the hero I kept alive. So I chose Madril, who I kept at the very back of my board and had him pepper the lines with shots. It was the really nice Amon Hen board, which I
Yeah.
think is in one of the photos. And Madril was more than happy to sit at the top of Amon with his pack of rangers and shoot some arrows. Funnily enough, he managed to get a wound onto Legolas, which paid off later because I managed to kill Legolas,
Hey,
which was very good.
that is good.
Um, so that was a good return on it. Unfortunately, Legolas shot back at Madril and did a wound on him, so my opponent got a few points for that. Um, he chose to kill the Captain of Minas Tirith, who was in the middle of the lines. And like I said, he never stood a chance against Legolas, and he picked a piece of terrain out on my far right flank, which I had not guarded in the slightest. I was focused entirely on taking my bit of terrain. Um, Turns out that he had some ghostly cavalry, and he didn't manage to get them into position in time for when the game ended. So I think we had about 2 hours, and
Yeah.
that last round, I think he only needed the one more round to move over. Um, but unfortunately, it was time, and
But you won 12-5, so I think from memory,
yeah.
the terrain grants 5 points, so
So I
um,
had
it
all
would
my
be
models.
12-10 even if he'd grabbed it.
Yeah, yeah, even then, I managed to get all my models into it. I kept my hero alive. I kept my general alive. I managed to wound Aragorn. I didn't manage to kill him, which is why I didn't get a boatload of points. But yeah, no breaking either. Very hard to break
Yeah,
Return of the King list. They're pretty resilient, and
sure,
Defense 8
sure.
works pretty well for them.
I was pretty jealous of the board that you got to play on. But yeah, it sounded good. And then closing out, well, also our first win of the day between all three of us, so congratulations, 12-5.
Didn't
Um,
last.
well, there we are. Closing it out, I played Barad-dûr, which is a bonkers matchup. So a lovely chap, oh gosh, James, I believe his name was, had Sauron, two Mordor trolls, and about 12 orcs with a captain. That was his list, so very elite, very powerful. And in Fog of War, straight from the off, obviously the trolls aren't the troll chieftains. So like with when you played Jules, so I had one choice on my assassination target because it can't be Sauron, so it was the orc captain. But actually, that kind of suited me because they're pretty squishy,
Mm.
especially for a hero troll. and I had to keep one of them three alive. Bert had heroic defense, so I thought, why not? Um, I was on a really the board was probably my least favorite, but actually it was a completely flat board with just pillars. But actually it made the game hilarious. It was the game I've probably laughed at during the most, including my opponent did as well. Really great game. Basically, we just walked towards each other because why wouldn't you? Um, he sent some orcs to try and grab some of the pillars in my deployment because they have to be in each other's deployment zone. I walked the troll forward. Ended up in a position where his trolls actually failed the courage checks to charge my trolls because they both caused terror quite a few times. And the first turn our lines clashed, I managed to get Bill, the leader, and Tom, who sneezes, into combat with Sauron. Sneezed on Sauron, which is one of my favorite things I've done in Middle Earth so far, just completely organically, forgive the pun. Sneezed on Sauron, halved his fight value, won the duel roll, and stabbed him with a fork and a spoon. The Dark Lord got covered in snot and then poked with cutlery. I took two or three wounds, I think, and then over the next couple of rounds, I managed to re-engage him, and I managed to force Sauron with cutlery and snot onto his ring saves. Um, so I managed to get him rolling his 2+ to stay alive roll. My opponent also didn't have any might at that point, so on a 1 I would have killed Sauron. Sadly, he rolled something other than a 1, and I never got a chance to do it again. I managed to kill my target pretty easily. I think Bert veered off towards the the orc captain, just squished him with a barge, and got to him really quickly. It's such a huge utility with monsters. I think we were talking earlier about um, the ability to stop things like barges and hurls and whether or not they're too powerful. I don't think they are, but it is a huge utility because normally, when your two battle lines meet, you have a bit of a agency to stop things coming at you, and barge just undoes all that. But anyway, it was great. We basically fought to. I think we had three models on the table at the end of the game. I killed both his trolls. I think one ran away because I'd managed to punch Sauron. Their force could break. The orcs are pretty easy to kill. I think one troll ran away and one I managed to fight. One of my trolls died. I think Tom died. Bill ran all the way across the board, Sauron chasing him in a kind of Benny Hill style um, chase scene. Got all the way across. Sauron killed him either with a chill soul or just a combat. I can't remember. Leaving Bert happily unwounded. And the game came down to because he was broken, all his orcs started running, and he had five or six orcs touching my the pillar that was his objective terrain piece, and turn by turn they ran one by one, and it ended with one orc, one not even a captain, a regular orc, passing about 7 courage checks in a row because we played very quick turns at the end because it was basically Sauron chasing a troll. Um, Passing every single one of them, and then we were rolling the one or two to see if the game end every turn. The game ended after about 10 more turns of that, and because he claimed the objective terrain, we both wounded. No, we both wounded general. We both kept. I think I kept my target alive. He didn't. So it was an 11-12 loss. Lost by 1 point, but honestly, it was some of the most fun I've ever had playing Middle Earth strategy battle game. And I was really pleased to hear my opponent also had a really great game, I think. I'm pretty sure because I heard him telling other people about it. And the next day in the toilets, I heard, "Did you hear about the person who sneezed on Sauron?" And I think that's, we're building our own folklore here. Sneezing on Sauron works, ladies and gentlemen. That's
Who
the
knew?
takeaway from this. Who knew? Although, well, it doesn't because I lost the game, but it leads to a very fun game. So that
It's
was
always
day.
nice to have a story coming out of
Yeah,
those.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to have a story. That was day one. So a grand total of 1 win from 9 games for all three of us. Not a
Oh,
great
but some.
score.
I mean, we both had very pretty close losses, I would say.
Yes, yeah, it was
Um,
some. I had two relatively close games and one very, very not close game. It wasn't even really worth putting models on the table almost. Thomas, you won one and then lost two, which is great. And Jules, yeah, you almost came close to winning one. I think it was a good warm up, basically. Um, Again, We stayed at the evening. There's evening entertainment at Scouring. There's a really good, if anyone does go, it looks like maybe it's not so great, but I think it's called Three Idiots. There's a burger place just below the venue, literally in the same
Yeah.
building, and you can table order 2 tables in the venue. Fantastic, pretty cheap and amazingly good food.
Mm.
We ate from there on Saturday night, and we took part in their. It's not really a pub quiz, but the Scouring quiz.
Yep.
It was
A
about
proper Lord of the Rings quiz, wasn't it?
Lord of the
Or
Rings quiz.
at least a themed quiz.
It was
Yeah.
a theme quiz. Well, it was from a book as well, so it was proper. Darren was reading questions from a book and picking different areas. One was on hobbits, one was on journeys, that sort of thing.
Orcs.
Orcs, yeah, there's 55 rounds, 50 questions total.
I think there was one on the rings, one on yeah, what you said, one on hobbits,
Something like that. We
and then
got
the last round was Middle Earth strategy battle games.
Oh
Naturally,
yes, yeah, like how many points is X and what's the range of Y unit, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's well remembered.
Our
Um,
worst round.
Yeah, it was actually weirdly and kind of embarrassingly, but we scored 38 points out of 50, which isn't too bad, and we won it. Not to brag, but we won the by only about 3 points. I think another team got 35.
I can't remember. We would have got more points if you weren't embarrassed by the fact that I got all of the answers too detailed, even
Well,
for the
no,
book.
and I was overwritten about there are 10 Shire models
Yeah,
heroes in the
that was
Shire.
Thomas's fault. There
now
were,
that was a pure misunderstanding.
I think there
I'm
was
sorry.
more than one thing that was Thomas's fault, but
I'm going to
There
blame
were
the
some
newbie.
disagreements there on several questions,
This is why we bring
and
you
I
on
think
to
there
this show,
was.
Thomas. You're brought on as a patsy to blame.
I think the most frustrating thing for us was trying to name the three types of hobbit. So
Yeah,
we had
just couldn't get it.
stores,
three
we
families
had
of hobbits.
three families of hobbits. That's it. So we had stores. I've even forgotten the second one now, but I remember
Fallow
the last one
hides.
very well. Fallow hides, and then
Harfoot.
we put proud feet, which was close
Hmm.
because we obviously knew there was foot in the title, but it was
We
half
had
foot.
we had feet in
Yeah,
the brain, but not
yeah,
Harfoot.
feet on the brain.
Yeah, so that was great fun. We were tempted to play like a friendly between the three of us, but to be honest, I'm sure you guys know when you go to an event, you're actually just knackered by the end of the day. Um, so yeah, left after that. Got bought a round of beers as a prize, which is lovely. Chatted to Darren, and I'm gonna completely forgetting the chap you talked to, Thomas, who on the second day. Tom, maybe? No, never mind. We'll come back to it.
Maybe
Um,
it was Sam. Maybe it was
Sam,
Sam.
possibly. Yeah, top table gaming people. Really nice. And we had a chat with other fellow players. Some we played, some we hadn't. So really good community feel, which is great. Managed to get washed and dressed for day 4, round 4, day 2. Um,
Where we found
which
there was no cafes open,
yeah,
unfortunately.
nothing open on a Sunday apparently. So we had to,
It's the north.
snack day 2. But that was all right. That's nothing to do with the venue. Day 4, day 2, round 4 was hold ground. So
Yeah.
central objective, basically almost all the points, over half the points for scenario involves whether or not you can hold the central objective. There's only one, and it is Maelstrom. So separate warbands. Um, Thomas, lead us off. You faced Army of the White Hand.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember the guy's name. It was either Jason or Jared. Or, either way, he had a really nice Army of the White Hand list. Had all the usual trimmings. Had the Saruman with all the fancy spells. Had
Yep.
another Grima in there, just to really twist the knife for me for
Two
the
Grimmers.
weekend. Yeah, two Grimas. Then he had the Oathbreaker and the Chieftain.
Okay.
Had a couple of Wild Riders in there, which he used quite well. And yeah, it didn't go how I thought it would go in the slightest.
Yeah.
So I brought Madril on first. Madril did exactly what he's supposed to do, which is he rolled a 5 and plus one it to a 6. Came on exactly where I wanted him to, and then proceeded to march towards the middle of the board. This then meant I could modify the rest of my arrivals, and they did all arrive, well, not quite where I wanted them. So I rolled I think it was a 3 for, or maybe no, I think it was possibly a 2 for Faramir.
You rolled something.
It's not really
Yeah,
important.
No.
it's not very well. It is kind
How
of
was the
important because I rolled that, and my opponent got to place him where he wanted, and he put him
right?
in a really bad spot in the corner. My opponent, meanwhile, rolled 5 and 5 and 5, and then nothing. And then the next round rolled 5 and managed to bring all of his forces on from the opposite side of the board to Madril.
Right.
And yeah, it was just very. At which point, I had no hope of ever catching Saruman because he was just in the middle
Yeah.
of a big, massive dudes.
So
Um,
did he basically camp out in the middle of the objective before you could get there, and then just couldn't be
it was
shifted?
kind of a mad dash between the two of us. So Madril managed to march in there pretty quickly. Um, but it really became like this sort of brawl in the corner of the board where Faramir had come on and Boromir and the captain had backed him up. Grima was sat in there sapping all my heroic might, so I think I managed to burn all my might on heroic actions pretty quickly because I was paying double, which was really really frustrating. I had no way of stopping him. Saruman's on horse, can't catch him. Saruman did his lightning bolt, which was pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Killed, I think it was 6 models and knocked Boromir off his horse, and that was all in the first round. That was horrible.
Oof.
And then proceeded to winds later to stop me from getting to the middle, which worked perfectly for him. He managed to get a lot of. There's a lot of models in that army of the White Hand, and he managed to get them all into
Yeah.
the middle.
Of course.
So yeah, in the end, I think it was he had more models. He didn't
Yep.
have twice as many
I've
models.
got it written down here as a 0-4 loss to you. So you didn't award that many VPs, which
No,
is
no.
good.
So no. So I can't remember what the scoring criteria is on this one, but I don't think it's banners.
It's
I
something.
think
So it's
we
basically, I
both have
believe it's 4,
banners.
8,
Yeah,
and 12 for being in the middle of the board, and
It's
yeah,
then
most
the usual secondaries. So,
it's mostly
um,
for the middle, and then there is for general kill
yeah,
as usual.
yeah. It
yeah.
sounds
So I
like
think
you did as well as you could, basically,
yeah,
with
yeah, I
the
can see
I
the.
melee stuff.
tried my best.
I'm looking at the list. I mean, it's 53 models in the
Yeah,
army of the White Hand. Granted, there's a chunk of them that are wild men, but there's also a small chunk of Uruk-hai scouts.
mm,
So unsurprisingly, the one thing Reclamation of Osgiliath is good at with Boromir is absolutely slicing through armies like this. If it was any, I think this comes down to something we said on the way back, which is it depends a lot on the army list you pull and the scenario you're against.
yep,
Something like this where his weight of numbers actually works quite well for him. Not so great for me, but in any other sort of battle line, to the death or something, would have been an absolute slaughter.
yeah. Would have
Just
been
because
brutal.
I was winning all the fights, killing them very frequently.
Yep,
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal.
no,
Yeah, just
definitely.
didn't have enough time to get into the middle, so that was
No.
the loss.
Sometimes you're playing with time as well, which is
Yeah,
how an
yeah.
event works. Jules, you played the second Return of the King that we played as a group. I think after Thomas playing the first.
Yeah, this was my second game. Sorry, the second game against Return of the King. My second game versus Aragorn and Legolas. Although the first one
Yeah,
was Elisar. I really loved this game. It was a really fun game. I can't remember my opponent's name. I'm real sorry, but he was really, really good fun to play against. Again, Maelstrom of Battle really messed me up. I ended up with Galadriel in one corner of the board, surrounded by all of his warbands, basically, other than Gimli. Um, and then Haldir and Celeborn were really far away
right.
and couldn't get there. I basically consigned myself to Galadriel was going to die, and I worked out a way to see how long I could keep her alive versus Aragorn, the King of the Dead, and a whole bunch of the dead. And also Legolas, who was just sort of trying to snipe away. Turns
Yeah, you
out,
sent.
like,
Yeah,
long enough that I could seize the central objective with the rest of my army, and Galadriel just stood strong.
nice.
She obviously is terrible in combat. But the elves just kept managing to just pull off some crazy wins against the dead. I mean, the fight five, I mean, they could have been fight four, but the fight five was just great.
Yeah,
Um, and they just offset Aragorn's bonus. He just couldn't crack through them quick enough. So in the meantime, I was basically able to just set myself up in the center, continuing to do like a little bit of shooting, a little bit of sniping, and basically in the end it just came down to having the triple models in the middle.
yep. You
So it
sent
was
a funny photo to our group chat of like family relations are difficult with like Aragorn fighting Galadriel
yeah,
because obviously it's his uh grandmother-in-law.
grandmother-in-law.
Yeah.
And also like Legolas was trying to shoot her with the bow that she gave him, which is pretty dark. Uh,
Well,
but
it's just
you know,
clearly a family squabble. Everyone was hungry after before dinner, something
yeah,
like
Gimli
that.
came on the other side and was making a beeline towards Celeborn, because obviously, if he could kill him, then he could take his place.
Yeah, he's
Um,
fighting for her affection, clearly. But yeah, it came out as a 13-5 win for you. Interestingly, Thomas, you played Return of the King round 3, and Jules, you played it round 4. Thomas, you won 12-5. Jules, you won 13-5. It's almost exactly the same score against the same list, interestingly. Maybe just coincidence. Maybe something there to be talked about by smarter minds than us.
mm.
Um,
I
Well,
think
I
I
go
think
for it.
Return of the King is a very interesting list. It's quite expensive with the ghosts, which means you have less models, but it is a very tough list. And I guess if you've got the strat like the two-handers in Julian's case to chop through them,
Yeah,
you're
it
probably
was
there was
doing
uh, it was
8 inch
tied
move
with
now.
Muster of Isengard as the most popular list at the event.
Oh, right.
So there were
Okay.
8 Return of the Kings and 8 Muster of
Wow.
Isengard players. Um,
Okay. I mean, one, I think it's potentially quite easy to paint for an event because the ghosts are very quick to paint. Two, it's a lot of fun because you have a lot of um, you've got the three hunters potentially, and the King of the Dead who's got the nasty sword sort of instant kill attack. Aragorn has Anduril, doesn't he?
yes.
Yeah, for free. So like just insane potential killing power. The ghosts now move 8 inches, which is pretty wild.
Mm.
Um, So I can see it being. I mean, I've thought it'd be really fun. We've got the clear Army of the Dead from a year or two back, and it'd be fun to paint them up at some point, or paint
I
them up
think it was only
slightly.
last year, but they took forever to arrive.
That was it. Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, I played the morning. It was a bit of a special game. I ended up matched against Thorin's Company, amusingly, so very thematic. Three trolls versus Thorin's Company, and I happened to mention it to Darren, saying, "Huh, look at that! Like the draws just given me this matchup," and he said, "Well, why not go in the studio, the top table gaming studio?" I asked my opponent, a very nice chap named Thomas, another Thomas, Tom, I think it was, and he was like, "Yeah, absolutely fine." So we went in and we played our game on stream. So you can go and find it online on the Top Table Gaming YouTube channel if you want. It was a lot of fun. I will say basically it was an 18-0 win to the Trolls. So I got my first win and it was a pretty huge stomping. I didn't quite table him. Um, Absolutely his dice and the scenario rather than any skill on my behalf. I played very averagely, but my dice were quite hot and his were really, really bad. I think Gandalf successfully cast one spell the entire turn game. He had most of the dwarves and Gandalf. No Bilbo, which was fine.
I think
Um,
it's worth pointing out for your trolls, you had the upgrade of dominant presence.
Yeah, yeah, which I think is essentially for going to an event with them, which basically means if they capture, if they're on an objective, they count as being as owning it, and your opponent, more importantly, counts as having no models. So it's not that you just own it; it's that you own it outright. And obviously, on hold ground, there's only one to hold. We were talking beforehand, and I was sort of list bashing with you two, and I thought hold ground is probably the one scenario that this list is going to do really well at because unless I'm tabled, I just win because you get 12 VPs and your opponent gets none. Even if you have one troll and one wound and your opponent has 60 models on it, you just get it. Um, it was a really fun game.
Unless
We
you're
got to do it
against
on camera.
Smaug.
Yes, true. It does say unless your opponent has a list. So if it was a mirror match of three trolls, that would be a difficult one. And if it was Smaug, that would be difficult. I did win, not win, I was given a little top table dice for attending and being on the channel. So that's very nice. I've got one of these special dice, and yeah, it was great fun. So yeah, my first win, and Jules, your first win of the event. We both got pretty solid wins.
Yeah, yeah, it was we both won at that point. That was clearly when the
Uh,
tables had turned.
yeah, well, we slipped far enough down the rankings, basically.
Mm.
I will say as well, Tom, who I played against, then went on to win the wooden spoon and got an awesome I think a miniature sword, a fully metal replica miniature sword for the wooden spoon. I'm actually quite jealous, and kind of wish I had got the wooden spoon, but I'm happy to have been part of the reason to have contributed for it. So, because he did win 0 VPs, it was really rough. I think I would have got a 20-0 win, but he turned off the banner at the end of the game by backing Gandalf away into it. I did also put Gandalf in the sack, which is a paralyze ability that all the trolls have. This was the first game I got to use that, so I picked up Gandalf and put him in a sack, which was great fun. But yeah, that was a really good round 4. Clearly, that's where the tables turned. Round 5 was Reconnoiter, which I think all three of us would agree, or I think we agreed afterwards, it's our least favorite out of the 6 standard scenarios at the moment. It's fine,
I mean,
but
it was already bad for. Of the three of us, Thomas had the most chance to win it because he had 3 cavalry models.
yeah, one of which is
Um,
Boromir.
And Heroic March, yeah.
and Heroic March. I
Yep.
mean, do any of the trolls have Heroic March? No. No,
Nope.
my Lothlorien army, Haldir doesn't have Heroic March.
Yep.
So you're stuck foot slogging.
Yep.
Uh,
6 inches a turn.
and like for Lothlorien, I mean, your army is tough, and you can stop people from moving. You're not very good at moving yourself. Like,
Yeah, and unfortunately, this was a rough round for you two because you both had a really difficult opponent. Because as Julian alluded to, the draws came up, and clearly we were all doing equally well or badly, and you two got drawn against each other. So it was a
yeah,
Striding Edge Games grudge match. It was a nail biter, from what I can tell. We happily happened to be, I was literally on the table sort of opposite you, so all three of us were standing next to each other, which is kind of nice because sometimes you go to these events and don't actually see the people you go with. Um, it was a 1-0 win and a 0-1 loss for a win for Julian and a loss for Thomas. Why don't both of you quickly recap? How was it? It looked like a bit of a
it was
Well,
a immovable object versus a movable object. Um,
I think it typified, codified, whatever the word is. It was a perfect demonstration of why Reconnoiter is not a fun sort of mode to play on. So you had a list that couldn't move very far, but had a lot of shooting. So there wasn't much I could do about that really. Um, so I figured my only option was to go into it, try and stop being shot. Trying to run cavalry past a bunch of elves with throwing weapons and strength 3 bows doesn't work, unsurprisingly.
who would have
Um,
thunk?
so I'm very unfortunately, I
but you,
didn't manage to get anything past you. You didn't manage to have enough speed to run off my side of the board, so there was absolutely no points for the actual objective in there at all.
yeah.
I think the one VP came from a very desperate. Did you shoot Boromir? I think you shot him, didn't
Oh
you?
yeah, I killed his horse and then wounded him.
I think you
Um,
wounded him, and I burned. I managed to. I made really good use of the Remember Today, Little Brother army rule in Osgiliath. Burned all of Faramir's fate, keeping Boromir wound free. Then
and
burned all of
Boromir's.
Boromir's fate, keeping him wound free, including. So I think I did. I need to drop. I think I had to drop 3 might at one stage out of that 6 might to stop
Yeah,
a wound going through because I think that was
Oof.
I think we were in the last round or second to last, and it was
I think
almost essential.
that was before, but I mean, it was the only victory points that anyone was really getting.
Was gonna, yeah. So I wanted to try and prevent that, and it just obviously you just can't stop that much elf shooting. There's
Yeah,
enough of it. It's
I
not
guess
great,
in
and
that
you
one,
being sorry.
when you're for going against General against Lothlorien, because you had the mirror, Jules. Uh,
You got to push.
Gladriel is your general, right?
Yeah, well, because
Yeah,
she has 3 fate base and re-rolls it.
and rerolls it
Um,
and then regenerates all of it at the end of every turn.
if she's next to the mirror. And you don't
Right.
want to give
Yeah.
it to anyone else, but yeah, obviously you're gonna give
Yeah,
it to
that's
Galadriel.
rough. Yeah.
I mean, I think I would say, uh, you probably could have got the cavalry past if you just committed to it. They might have died, but they also might not have.
I think
Um,
we did agree that at the end. Yeah, is that I definitely think running Boromir and some cavalry right round the left flank, which is your weakest flank, would have possibly got me some points and won me the game. We did
And
realise afterwards that dominance means you get more points for running models off the board as well,
yeah.
Yeah,
which was
really
something
important.
we didn't know at the time. Otherwise, I would have just simply charged Boromir off, and it wouldn't.
So yeah, if you'd run Boromir off, you would have got. I mean, he would count as more than 3 of my models. So you'd get the score for triple. You'd get the
The
score for
general,
getting. You get the score for getting a hero off the board, and
yeah,
he might not have taken a wound, so I wouldn't have got a
yeah,
point for
yeah.
wounding the general. So it's a learning process. But yeah, I mean, I think Reconnoiter as a mission at the moment, I just don't think it's very fun. Because a lot of
It
armies
depends
don't have the
really on your
tools.
matchup. Yeah, I think if you have like two, like I've got a Rohan and you've got Walls of Isengard Jaws, that could actually be kind of fun because you might have people kind of chasing after each other, desperately trying to dismount each other
Versus each other.
versus each other.
Whereas Rohan versus like the 3 trolls,
Would be super boring.
Kind of
like
a joke, yeah.
it would just
You may as well
be
just go to the bar,
yeah, you just be like, shall we agree?
unless
You get 10 medals off one side, and
yeah,
like I'll get a wound on Theoden, maybe. I don't know.
yeah. I
Like,
mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
you shouldn't match fix, but yes, unless your opponent threw the game as it were and agreed to just charge all his models at the trolls to try and table you, it's just going to be over. But yeah, that's how it is. Myself, I had a bizarre and another hilarious game. So I faced Doran's Company for the second time in a row, very, very strangely. I kind of can't quite remember the chap's name. Very lovely guy from Oxford. Um,
That was the other Tom, wasn't it, with his
it's
Maybe the
brother?
other
also
Tom.
Tom. You fought.
Yeah.
Also
You,
Tom.
in fact, I'm just looking. You fought a James Thomas, a Thomas Adams, and a Tom. So
There you
there's a
go.
lot of Thomases.
A lot of Thomases. Too
Plus the
many
one that
Thomases.
we took ourselves for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Who
And I
knows?
will say, remember Tom, because he's important for my 6th game.
Yes. So I fought Thorin's Company, and actually kind of a good matchup because again, if I was fighting one of you two with 40 models against my three, sure I've got a lot of barges and trolls and things I can do, but there's absolutely no way anyone would be able to get that, be able to stop anything. However, Thorin's Company, I think his list had 10 or 11 models, Radagast instead of Gandalf, which was cool, all on foot. And yeah, we just deployed. I again, same as Destroy the Supplies, was like, I'm not going to get off the board. I'm just going to try and goal keep and stop him um, getting off my board edge, and then maybe trying to get a general kill. Um, we sort of spent a bit of time skirmishing. I threw some stones. Again, super effective. I definitely took a fate, if not a wound, off. It was either Dwalin or Keeley, like one of the better dwarfs,
mm,
wounded them. Um, Then we had a bit of a clash because Thorin's Company has the rule where the dwarfs can call heroic marches for points of will instead of might. He was basically heroic marching all the way to my board edge, so he was moving 8 or 9 inches a turn, depending if it was a dwarf or Radagast. Super scary to try and stop. And basically, we had 4 or 5 turns where the dwarfs were calling a move if they lost priority on one model, then calling a march on another model, throwing all their models as far forward as possible, and then bracing and receiving the charge. At the time, I was like, just stop and fight the trolls. They're not that scary. You could just table them. But actually, in retrospect, I think 100% the correct choice because I had to stop and fight a dwarf, maybe two, and in bits and pieces, he was slipping a sort of core unit of 3 or 4 dwarves, including Thorin and Dwalin, the two really scary combatants, past me. Radagast used, is it Entangling Vines? What's the new spell that
tangling.
causes
Yeah.
Entangling Vines? Causes difficult terrain, which is great because made it really difficult to chase after them. Again, another one where Barge really came into effect because he sort of made quite a few really decent cages where like dwarfs were sort of all huddled up, and only one was maybe in charge distance. I charged him with a troll, then barged and went into the target I actually wanted to. He had to spend quite a lot of might doing defensive strikes on Thorin and that sort of thing. He did a heroic defense on Radagast at one point. Um, I barged into Radagast, fought him, won, and then rather than striking him because it was only B6s, I paralyzed him and put him in a sack. So it's 2 for 2 wizards. I paralyzed by putting in a sack. Um, and yeah, we basically, I chipped him down, killing one dwarf at a time, desperately running back towards my board edge because I came to meet him in the middle of the board, and then we ran back towards my board edge. I think by the time he almost reached my board edge, he was 4 or 5 inches move away from the board edge with 4 models, including Dwalin and Thorin, and I just about caught him with 2 trolls, and it basically came down to um, heroic priority roll off. All of us were out of might. Priority roll off, I won 2 or 3 times in a row and basically locked the dwarfs up. Did some counter strikes where I get to copy their heroic strikes and managed to win and just kill the dwarfs. Crucially, all of this was going off sort of middle of my board edge. Radagast was the middle of the board. He woke up from the paralyzed by himself and then basically ran and didn't bother doing any magic and just ran and managed to get himself off the board edge. And then I killed every other dwarf. One of them, Dwalin, was literally almost touching the board edge, but then he lost the move off, and I charged him with a troll. So I don't think I took a wound on the trolls because he was marching rather than combating, and or I might have taken a wound but saved it with fate. And I don't think, and I think I killed every dwarf other than Radagast, or not every dwarf, but and then Radagast escaped. I was basically we finished the game. I thought that was an amazing game. Um, I was like, well, you've got 3 times my models off because 1 times 0, you've got 1 to my 0 is 3 times. And one of his teammates, I can't remember their team, but they had a team, a group that they were all members of, like we were Striding Edge Games. Um, one of his teammates came over to our table as we were wrapping up, and he said, "No, no, no, you only get the one more. It's not 2 times or 3 times. It's only one times more." Um, so it would have been a 13-5 loss to me, but because his teammate came over and corrected him, and we did go and check with Darren, the TO, and he was like, "No, it does say if you actually read, reading is a superpower. You need one model off grants you 4 victory points for 3. If you get 2 times and a minimum of 2 models, so you can't just get one model off, then it counts as 2 times, and you need 3 minimum for the 3 times models. So it does actually say in the rulebook. So that actually knocked it all the way down to a 5-all draw. So I got a win against Thorin's company in a really good scenario for me, and I got a draw in a scenario that I thought I was absolutely going to get crushed at. So I was pretty pleased with that. It was a hilarious game again. Like we were just laughing and having a great time, but at the same time, a really tense one. It was one of those great games that basically came down to like 1 or 2 dice rolls. Both players, we basically both gave it our all, and it was decided by 1 or 2 dice rolls at the end of the game. But I did feel a bit bad that he got his victory kind of snatched away from him at the end, so I went and bought him a drink afterwards. I hope he doesn't feel too bad. If he does, blame your teammate because he corrected us. um, and yeah, it was a great game. So a win and a draw for me on day 2, which was very unexpected. I think I said to both of you on the car on the way in, if I can get 1 win out of 6, I'll be happy because I do not expect the Trolls to do well at 800 points. But coincidentally, it was twice against Doran's company, who are another hero, all hero list. So
Yeah, and you're sort of better heroes than them.
yeah, across the board, higher fight. Really high strength, really high defense. The dwarfs are tough but kind of squishy. Some of them are only defense 4 or 5,
Yeah, I
so I was
think
basically winning them
Thorin
on
and
threes.
Gloin are the 2 highest defense
They're on
ones.
8 or something, 7 or 8. So
Oh.
they weren't on threes, but I was basically
Did
winning all of them on threes.
It's also narratively the best matchup, right?
Oh,
Trolls
Oh yeah,
versus
yeah, yeah.
Orange Company. The fact you get it twice is just even it's just what
it was
absolutely
fated,
beautiful.
Did you
clearly.
ever
Yes.
did you ever think about hurling a dwarf back up the board?
I thought about it, but because you only get to do it um, once per turn, the maximum I can send back will be 3. And if you're hurling them, you're not killing them, and it's a random distance. So I think it was
And it's strength
it's the
difference,
difference,
isn't it? Plus,
strength difference plus D3. So
so only 3 at the
uh,
most because they're all
three
strength 4.
strength 4 and their strength 7, so it'd be 3 plus D3. So I could only throw them 4 inches, so it'd be less than them. They'd move next turn. I was really tempted. We were looking at the rules of paralyze to see when Radagast could get back up, because my opponent wasn't sure if he could test the turn that he got paralyzed, and I was pretty sure you could. And we were reading the rules of paralyze, and there were a couple of lakes on the board, and we happened to be right next to one, and I didn't realize if a paralyzed model is in water features, you have to start rolling swim checks to see if they drown. And I just love the idea of that maybe a troll putting a wizard in a sack and then hurling it into a lake to drown them. Kind of seems really thematic. So I was really tempted to do it. Maybe I should have done it because it would have won me the game.
Yeah.
But if he drowned, it's only on a one, isn't it? So it was an excellent game, and I had a lot of fun. But yeah, that was great. And then round six, again, it was pretty fast paced. I seem to remember only having like a brief gap between rounds, but
Other than lunch, it was real
yeah,
quick between rounds. I mean, it
I mean, it's
was
basically time to go to the loo, have a drink, maybe have a snack, and then
if
start
that.
again. We
Yeah.
each got to catch up like briefly. It's good because I think 6 games feels like a really solid amount of gaming to get done in a weekend, and it sort of reduces the randoms of the draws, I think. But we can go into that later. The last round, as if you've been paying close attention, was to the death. So basically, kill heroes from memory.
I mean, it's
Kill
kill.
everything.
It's just
Yeah,
kill.
but you get
Oh,
points for killing heroes. You get points for breaking,
Yeah.
yeah.
and
Uh,
then the usual
Points for
secondaries.
banners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Points for
So
banners, point for general.
Thomas,
It's break and
yeah,
quarter your opponent to
that's
win.
it. That's it. Thomas, we might as well start with you. Sadly, well, it's a win, but sadly not a satisfying win.
It depends. At the time, it was very satisfying. So if you remember Tom from the last round, his
Who I
brother
played.
was my opponent. Yes, and unfortunately, Tom informed us his brother was not very well and wasn't able to play for the last round. Um, Sadly, there were no ringers. There was no. Everyone was it was matched. I was the only odd person out, so I didn't have an opponent for the last round, which suited me just fine because I had a drink, wandered around, watched you two play some pretty great games. Spoke to a few people, which was quite pleasant, and just generally relaxed before the drive home. So I was quite
Yeah,
relieved for a little break,
you were
to
our
be honest.
driver,
Yeah,
which was appreciated. So at least you got a break. I will say in my 25-minute Balrog game, I got to do the same. I got to come and watch you guys play a
good
bit,
to do. Yeah,
which was nice. But at least I also got to play a game. So it's always a bit of a disappointment, but obviously absolutely no one's fault. And you got a win. So technically 2 wins, 4 losses on the scorecard for you.
yeah. I feel
Technically,
bad.
very
Yeah,
technically.
technically,
Ah, no.
yeah, the best kind of win. Yeah, yeah. I don't feel like it was a win. I don't feel like counting it as one. I just was more concerned about my opponent, whether he was well or
Yeah,
not.
no.
It's never pleasant for. I'm sure lots of people have had it happen where something comes up and you're not able to
Yeah,
play
no.
that
Life
last game or
happens.
you have to
You know,
leave early. So
it happens. It happens. But
yeah,
hey, at least you got to have a break, which is good. I played again. I'm struggling. I'm very bad. I believe it was
Gerda's Horde.
Michael.
No, I think
Michael,
he
I believe,
remembers the army, just not the
with
name.
Birder's Horde.
Just
Yeah.
not the name. Yeah, yeah. I remember the
Michael.
army very well because I
Yeah.
watched most of the game. Yeah.
It
Uh,
is a Michael.
yeah. Really, really interesting game. I got to play on one of the more scenic boards, which is great. And complete opposites almost. So he had 3 trolls as well, Birder and 2 cave trolls. But I think he had 50 something models. And in to the death, yeah, you just have to kill each other. I really wasn't sure which way this was going to go. But yeah, he had Birder, 2 Wild chieftains who are quite scary,
Mm.
and an orc captain. He basically formed a giant battle line and came straight towards me, which I was absolutely fine with. It was the end of the last day, and my brain wasn't working on full speed really. I managed to kill the orc captain with a couple of throw stones in the first couple of times. I did have to burn either 1 or 2 might on 2 different trolls to make it happen, but I thought I could get ahead on the VPs by killing heroes. That'd be good. So got lucky with that. And then we just had a giant brawl. Birdo got sneezed on, and then fought the Wild chieftains fought, and basically it was a giant, slow, grinding slog. I think it was the only game of mine that went to time. One of the I think the second Thorin's Company game might have also done, but unsurprisingly, the trolls just got surrounded, but then won their fights and punched and punched and punched, managed to kill all of the heroes. So both Wild chieftains went down. Birdo went down eventually with a barge and a sneeze and a bunch of strikes. And then he wasn't broken, but then just kept charging. It was the game where God knows how many courage checks the poor guy had to do, but obviously they were Courage 8 plus, and every single one had to check all 40 models or something, 45 models had to check to see if they could charge the trolls. I didn't do very much movement, and he spent the whole game trying to charge trolls, and then I killed a couple of orcs.
Mm.
We ended up in a bizarre situation where I actually lost two trolls just to sheer weight of numbers, and then Bill, the general, was the only one left at the end of the game, and he spent I think about 20 turns, but it was played in about 20 minutes. Well, I was chasing his models around the board because he was one model away from broken. I think he had 25. I'd killed 25 and I'd killed 26. And I spent 40, no, it was about 45 minutes in real life and about 20 game turns, moving and moving and moving, passing courage checks for being broken. I tried a throw stone 3 or 4 times and rolled a one. As if dice said, just chase them. And I finally managed to, I think, because he kept having to move little groups of orcs into the corners and then split them, and then Bill could move a little bit closer and would gain a fraction of an inch, and it was just a bizarre one. We were both having fun. Both of us sort of went, we could throw this in, but to be honest, like it's still anyone's game. And the moment Bill broke, that I would have been tabled, so he would have won very handily. And the moment I killed one of his orcs, he would break, which did eventually happen. I managed to catch one of his models, kill them. I think then he did break checks the next turn, and out of the remaining 25, about 12 remained, and he
Mm.
went from broken to quartered immediately, with about 15 minutes left on the clock, and the game ended. It was an 18-5 victory to me. It definitely didn't feel that way. It could have gone either way. A really great last game against a really nice opponent. He was very gracious in our. The trolls were doing silly things, but it was a fun one. So yeah, 2 18 victory point wins for me on day two and a draw, which is really unexpected. But I guess to the death is probably one that suits the three trolls quite well. So yeah,
I did quite like the nail biting in the middle when the trolls were surrounded and you were just wailing on his army. It was touch and go for a little bit
it was
until
kind of
you
thematic, I
mopped up.
suppose. Like just these three giant models surrounded by little things, just all trying to stab them, and one gets dragged down, and then another. Yeah, it was kind of one where the mechanics of the game led to a really fun um, scenario. But yeah, it was great. And finally, Jules, you played Muster of Isengard, yet another Isengard list.
Yeah,
How was your game?
I played another Isengard list. I believe the name was Alex. Um, his list was pretty standard. Well, there's two types of Muster of Isengard list. There's one that's got crossbows, and there's one that's got berserkers, and I guess there's a third, which is you got a mix of both. And he had some berserkers, but he really was heavy on the crossbows. Unfortunately for him, we were playing on one of the lovely Dale boards.
Oh yeah,
Uh, so it's sort of like the ruins of Dale, and I chose to play to my strengths, so I fought him along a very narrow frontage, where it's no surprise that this was my best game for me. I scored 20 victory points versus one of his, and I largely put this down to the fact that most of my shooting continued to keep shooting for the entire game. So I kept sort of just plinking people away. I kept shooting arrows at Saruman. I think, completely failed to do anything beyond dehorsing him from shooting, but and it ended up just being like a real grind. The thing with Isengard, of course, is the breakpoint is a nightmare.
of course.
So he had 44 models to my 41, but his breakpoint was what that would be something like 18. I don't know. It was a lot of models to kill. I know that.
Approaching quartering, basically.
Yeah, and the thing was though is once we got to the break, again, the quarter was the next turn. Because they just failed all the courage checks. On the final turn, I'd basically managed to compel Saruman into a combat trap. So he couldn't do his stand fast. He couldn't do his big stand fast. Most of the Uruk-hai suddenly just broke or ran, and then the last couple got killed.
Nice.
Uh, it was a fun game. I mean, it was really quite tense. The initial kind of elven shooting looked like it was really strong, and then the Uruk-hai were kind of pushing quite hard back in. Uh, the point that I gave away was Haldir, who got overexposed and basically just went down to Uruk-hai pikes. Um, but at the same time, he had two. I think there was two Uruk-hai captains, uh, another Grima, obviously. Though he did not take the choice to deploy him within my lines once it was clear that he would just get compelled into a combat and killed. So it was very satisfying when an arrow just took him out in one shot. Uh,
That's always good. So how many was it? Four Greemers you two faced across the weekend?
yeah,
Uh, yeah,
I did two, and Thomas did two. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
four
luckily faced.
Saramans.
Yeah, I luckily faced zero Isengard. I don't know. My trolls might have been okay against Isengard, but although the magic
I,
might have been
I think you would have had a good chance of barging straight through into Saruman and
maybe.
messing him up. But yeah,
But yeah, no Greemers, which is nice. Yeah, it looked like I saw a brief bit of it because you were sort of close to my table tools and it looked really interesting. But yeah, a big win. So 21. I think that was our largest win as a team, largest differential, and I think the only one where anyone got 20 VPs. So congratulations.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was. As I say, I mean, in some ways, Muster of Isengard is again, it's a little bit like Lothlorien. It's a very tough, quite effective fighting army. But in this instance, it was just outclassed by fight five elves.
yeah,
They were
it's a
just winning.
grindy sort of got decent melee but really decent shooting and some magic, which is basically exactly what Lothlorien is, but you're slightly better at them in every way.
Yeah,
Your shooting is slightly better, other than it's not strength 4. Your magic is quite a lot better, and your pajama elves aren't as good, but your
Armored
warriors
elves are
are
pretty good.
higher fight, higher courage, not quite as high strength. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah, I
mean,
can see why it'd be a tough matchup.
against like a man matchup, Uruk-hai captains are quite scary compared to
Mm,
your sort of generic troops. Against elves, you're like, well, actually, I'm fight five. I'm the same fight. If I lose the fight, yeah, I'll probably die, but I have to lose it. And it
yeah,
turned out that I just, did pretty well at winning fights against Uruk-hai captains.
you'd warmed your
Um,
dice up by that point.
and my dice had finally, we worked out the kinks, and
Yep.
they were performing at what they should
I
be.
will I will say I don't know what I think it was after game two I did buy the event sell Scouring of Cheshire dice, so I bought some 2025 Scouring of Cheshire dice. These rolled really nicely all weekend. As soon as I changed, I did have the sort of Mordor Lord of the Rings dice, and they rolled very well. So I don't know if there's a promotional dice bonus in there, but
But
it worked very well.
you bought them on site, like.
Yes, yeah. So who
and they
knows?
delivered.
They delivered. So yeah, that was our 6 games. Gosh, what was it? 7 wins, 1 draw, 9 losses, something like that between all of us, or 10 losses. Um, uh, Day two was much more successful. Obviously, the wins and losses aren't the most important thing. I had a really fun game where I won, and I had an insanely fun game, several insanely fun games where I lost. So that's the more important thing. Um, the winners it's been recapped elsewhere, so we're not going to go into it too much. But first place was Adam Bird with Army of Gundabad, which is really interesting. Second place was Men of the West with Richard Calladine, and third place was Richard Ancliffe with Minas Morgul. Again, really interesting. Not who I would necessarily would have picked um, as a prediction, but really interesting. Go and have a look at their lists, and there's a few other write-ups on Facebook and that sort of thing. Uh,
I thought it was quite interesting because I had a lot of time in the last round. I did sneak a
mm,
peek at the top table, so to speak, which was Richard versus Natalie.
right,
At which point they were both on 5-0.
right.
I think they were the only two people who were 5-0 at that stage of the day, which is why they were matched against each other. And they drew, which I think was also a surprise.
The top
Um,
4 people went 5 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw. So
yeah,
two tables
so,
must have drawn.
so it went right down to that last game
Yeah,
for the final standings, which I thought was interesting. Um, yeah, just but it was fascinating seeing two very what is perceived as very strong lists in Men of the West and Muster of Isengard clashing into each other, led by very good players. So yeah, it was good.
it's a bit
It was
like
well
watching
deserved
professional.
win.
A bit like watching professional sports when you're interested in playing the sport amateur
Yeah,
at an
Uh,
amateur level.
it was the Army of the White Hand, not the Muster of Isengard.
Oh, it was Army White Hand. My mistake.
Either
Sorry.
way.
With even because it looks like she didn't take any of the wargs, so she had 60 models.
Oh,
Like,
I mean, fair. Maybe that's what you need.
yeah,
But yeah, really, we won't go into the winners list because it's been done elsewhere, and I think
It's
we'll be
been
here for a
better
while.
analysed. Yeah.
And I don't think we pretend to be knowledgeable enough to be expert sort of list breakdown people. But yeah, we finished up. We had the awards ceremony. Again, Darren and all the other team uh, led that. They did a great job. So again, thank you from us to them. We have bought our early bird tickets for 2026. So hopefully, unless anything goes wrong, we'll be there. The prizes, again, if you can find the Facebook page, have a look at the prizes because they were fantastic. A full-size replica Witch King sword and Glamdring, I think, and then a whole bunch of little swords.
the Witch King sword was from
There was
a raffle, but
That was it.
yeah, the Glamdring was for the most sporting player, which feels
Which
fun.
actually I think is
Um,
also the prize to go for. I think that is
yeah, and then
the
a range of other replicas. I
yeah,
think there was a
just really
Sting, there was Legolas's
I think there
daggers,
was Sting. Yeah, and there was a Miracle Blade, wasn't there?
yeah, that was it.
a
Again,
Morgul.
so we yeah we had a
Miracle Blade. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
yeah we congratulated the winners. Then they had a raffle. We did have some raffle tickets. I think we came one number away from winning something.
If we'd
Twice,
Yeah, I think
no,
we were 450 and 457 was called. I think that was the first ticket as well. That was
uh,
very
yeah,
very heartbreaking, but it is what it is.
and I think there was someone in the if we bought like I think it was 20 tickets in the end. Um, if we'd bought 40 tickets, we would have sweeped the prizes because there was one guy that
yeah,
was like a 10 or 15 numbers above us, and he won twice.
yeah. So we would have got a lot of prizes, but that's always the way, isn't it? So we'll have to go back next year and buy more tickets.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really good. We drove back Sunday night. Thomas very kindly dropped us both of our homes, and it was knackering. I luckily had Monday off. You guys went straight back to work, um, which I know very poorly planned, I think, but that's the way it is. But yeah, excellent event. I have said already, but I would recommend it if you have the time and the energy and want to go. It was very friendly, and I would say it was a really good mix of competitive and friendly. Like most people were there not to sort of smash and get as high a score as possible, and even if they were, I think they did it with good um, cheer. But quite a few people were there to just have a good time. That was my perception. At least we had 18 games, and I don't think we had 17 and one dropout. I don't think we had a bad game between us.
No, it was a good event, I'd say. Like really nice.
I
Um,
Yeah,
I'll echo that and say I thought the vibe in the room was really good. Everyone
mm,
was really happy, really friendly. I didn't hear any raised voices or any angry arguments over anything really. I think it was
yeah,
really well run. Um,
how it should be.
other than I think there was some Longshanks problems on the first day,
Yeah,
and after and that was I think it was planned maintenance just to really twist
yeah.
the knife into
It
poor
wasn't
Darren.
anything on the organisers.
Uh,
It was the Longshanks sort of server admins or whatever. Sadly, so but it was about 15
but
minutes
other than
delayed.
that, it was yeah. Other than that, it went extremely smoothly. So I was
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
So that was our those were our games and what we thought of the event. So we'll circle back to lists. So you both, well, all three of us took mostly new lists. Thomas, you took an expanded list on one you've taken before, but also the first time you've run it in this um, edition
format.
at an event anyway. Uh, Thomas, why don't you take us off? How after 6 games, how did you find return reclamation of Osgiliath, and what did you find playing it like?
It is a very fun list. First of all, I like battle line lists. I like Gondor. For me, it was right up my street.
Cool.
I think it is if the game against Julian, there are two things that immediately stand out, and again against Muster of Isengard. Actually, the first is lack of magic. You have no magic in there whatsoever. That's really it's really quite painful in some scenarios because you have no way to counter Grima. Um, yeah, I think that's a big weakness of the
I
list, and
think,
you
to be
don't have any
fair,
tools to mitigate it in there either.
almost very few people have ways to counter Grima.
Mm.
I don't think that's a
Yeah, I
specific
don't think
exception
that's
to
an
your list.
exception, but I think it's definitely one of the weakest aspects of the list.
Yeah.
I think the shooting in it is okay. that's all there is to be said for it, really. I think in hindsight, probably would have taken less rangers and less bowmen, and just leaned more into warriors and spears and shields.
I think the shooting's above average.
Uh,
I mean, you get a 3 up shoot value.
Yeah.
A lot of armies
you do, yeah,
do not get that.
yeah.
I mean,
Bit of a
Can't
kilt
deny
for
that.
that.
orcs get 5 up shoot. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fair point. With the little Osgiliath guys, I think I was really disappointed with the Osgiliath veterans. Actually, I was really hoping they'd do more. There were a couple of clutch reroll the wound one moments, because they were close enough to Faramir or Boromir, especially against the Eagles. I remember that because everyone was so bunched up tight in that line around the Eagle. That came in really handy there. But otherwise, they never got to use Hatred of Mordor. I think their defense is quite weak for what are essentially more expensive warriors. So I think in terms of optimization, wouldn't take them. But otherwise, really fun list. Hinges entirely around Boromir. As soon as Boromir's dead, the list loses its teeth, sadly. But
Yeah.
standout was Faramir. I think Faramir is now a absolutely fantastic hero.
He's
Definitely want to take
definitely
him wherever you can.
one of the most improved heroes this edition, I'd say. He's had quite a few improvements, whereas some heroes have only had one small
mm,
improvement or
Yeah,
have stayed the same. So
because
yeah, definitely.
you get the fight six, you get the 3 attacks. You've still got the 3 might, 3 fate, 3 will. You get the wizard's pupil, the heroic resolve. You know, what's it? Ch- Captain of Gondor. And you get the resistance magic, which did
Yeah.
come in handy at
did
least
you
once for
ever
me.
actually use the wizard's pupil rule though?
I never managed to win a priority roll on that last turn when
Because
it would have actually mattered.
I mean, I think the wizard's pupil rule is like, oh, it's a nice rule to have,
For those who
but
don't know, do you want to explain it quickly?
So I cannot remember the exact wording, but essentially,
if
he's
you
got
win
two.
priority,
Yeah, if you win priority, you can hand it off to your opponent, and that
Right.
gives you dominance in
One
return.
of those. Okay,
Which is
yeah.
really good if you're on the objective at the last turn. You can be like, "Oh, you go first, and I'll come in and swoop the objective out after
Right.
from
Okay.
underneath you afterwards."
but it gives him dominant, and then warriors within a certain radius of him also get dominant as well.
That's
So
pretty
Yeah,
powerful.
it can be really big, but it's one of those things that there's no way that you can rely on it as a rule.
yeah.
Unless you know the game's ending that turn and you've won priority.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very
Cool.
rare it actually comes up. But the other one, the Captain Gondor gives you the free heroic resolve. I did actually make use of that when I broke. That was pretty great.
Good.
You get it every turn as well, which is really impressive. And reroll failed wound rolls. I might have forgotten that first part. But yeah, really really
Mm.
solid
Nice.
hero now.
Do you have a list you now want to try next?
Yes, as I think I've already mentioned several times to both of you, I really want to try atop the walls next. I think
Sure.
as a natural progression of my Gondor journey, I really want to give that one a shot before I start looking at other army lists. I think that would be really nice.
Basically start working some, because Gandalf the White's pretty decent magic now.
Yeah, definitely one of the most, again, probably one of the more improved heroes this edition.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
Irolas also pretty well improved. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to getting to try that at some point. Hopefully I get do a video on the channel with it.
Yeah, we'll get you on.
Mhm.
So Jules, Lothlorien, completely new army for you, painted in record time, looked lovely, has featured in Scouring promo shots, I think today.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly I think because it's on their Amon Hen board, which I think was
Yeah,
probably the best looking
I
board.
think so.
Um,
Their Bree board was
the
really
Bree
nice,
board
but
was
yeah,
quite cool as well, but the Amon Hen just looked really good.
the
Um,
one in the studio was rather nice as well that you didn't
no,
get to
no,
see.
no, no,
No, no,
no.
no, no.
Um, yeah, it's actually the first time I've ever played Lothlorien. Um,
Yeah,
I have
or
played,
elves?
no, I've played with Rivendell in the Last
Oh, that's true.
Alliance.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think in many ways some of the things that are relevant about Osgiliath are relevant here. I mean, you've got an elf line with high fight that's very hard to crack. Um, it's not quite as defensive as Gondor, and it's more. you know, there's better damage potential. I think one of the weaknesses of Gondor is beyond your heroes, your warriors are just sort of swording and boarding, or maybe spearing. But with elves, you can always do that switch where you're suddenly like, right, now we go two hand, we're gonna mess you up. I took, as I said before, I mean, I basically had 16 of the Galadrim, armored Galadrim, 8 with spears, 8 with shields. All of those I took the Lorien Guard upgrade, which is specific to Galadriel or Celeborn's warband. I had 16 Galadrim Guard with 8 with shields, 8 with spears. They all took the Lorien Guard upgrade, which is either Celeborn or Galadriel's warband. They can take it for a point. It allows them to re-roll the ones to wound. A bit like
Okay.
the Osgiliath veterans.
So really, +1 to wound and two-handing, you can basically have a banner turn where you do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and also what worked really well sometimes was having, the spears, they're stabbing with the spear, re-rolling the ones to wound. The two-handers are two-handing and then re-rolling the ones to wound. And a couple of times I also managed to get Celeborn in the mix, who gives out a 3-inch +1 to wound bubble for Lothlorien warriors. Uh, so collectively, it all adds up to hypothetically really great killing power if you can roll dice that
Yeah,
you know get the results you want.
that's a big
Uh,
if.
and then on top of that was the aforementioned 14 bows, 5 throwing weapons. Uh, you also get the elven cloak on your Lothlorien, sort of your pajama elves.
Yeah, really powerful actually, like underlooked. Um, but because even in the open, they're -1 to hit, right?
Yeah, I completely forgot about that several times, but yes, -1 to hit with the elven cloak.
So it's basically actually because you have times where you get two shooting armies or two shooting heavy armies, like with you two. But if you two were fighting Jules, you're completely comfortable just sitting because they're going to be
Yeah,
-1 to hit you, and you're going to be shooting them with your 3-up elven bows. So actually, it kind of forces the issue a lot of the time.
yeah. I mean, I think Thomas and I we ended up matched after uh, either it was an error with Longshanks, but I think it was because a couple of people dropped and they had to
Yeah,
redraw the matchings. And prior to us getting matched, I was matched against the Lothlorien army, which was very similar, apart from instead of pajama elves with bows, they had armored elves with bows. Um, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it. On
be
the one
interesting to see.
on the one hand, I was like, well, actually, this is better because I had marginally more models. I think it's like a difference of 2 models or something by the time you get there. But I was like, well, actually, my shooting will be better because they'll just be -1 if they can shoot me at all.
Yep.
Um, and I mean, again, the pajama elves, if they lose the fight, they'll probably die. But they have to lose the fight, and if they don't lose the fight, they're as good as anyone else.
Yeah, they're still strength 3 with a potential two-handed weapon.
Still fight 5 as well, aren't they? Which
Yes.
means they don't often lose that fight unless
Yeah,
it's that mirror match.
yeah, in a
Scary
mirror
as well.
match.
I think because again, I played a test mission against both of you, and one of the advantages of an all monster list is they all cause terror. Both of you had a warhorn, um, so the Thomas, your army was human level courage, but one better, and Jules, yours was just bonkers. Yours was elf courage +1, and then you had, I think, Galadriel and Celeborn go to a 3+ courage with the warhorn. Is that
No,
right?
uh, I think they are 3 to start with.
Oh,
One
okay.
sec.
So they might go to a 2+, aka actually unbreakable unless they're getting a -1.
Uh,
Either way, but that's actually pretty
yeah, yeah,
key,
yeah.
I think.
They're both Galadriel and Celeborn are 3 up on courage,
Right.
so
So they go to a
they
2-up,
just become unbreakable at that level.
unless you're facing a harbinger or something.
Unless the Harbinger is around.
Yeah,
And
that's
how
it's really
and
interesting.
Haldir goes to a 3 up, and then the normal elves go to a 4 up, which is
Right.
still a crazy. I mean, there's only 3 ways to fail.
Yeah.
No, there's only 2 ways to fail it. You got to roll a 1 and a 1 or a 1 and a 2.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
So did either of you how often did either of you break out of the game, 6 games out of interest?
I broke once.
Okay, that's
Um,
really impressive.
I broke once on the last turn by one model, uh,
Okay,
and never had to check for the break checks. He broke
I was
me
going to say,
at the end of the turn,
right, so
and
no
the
one ran
game
away.
ended. No one ran away.
And
Uh,
Thomas?
I think I only broke the once as well. Actually, looking at it, yeah, it wasn't combat that was my Achilles heel.
Right, it
time.
was time.
Time, always time. Yeah,
Right, fair. Well, I
the
broke
greatest enemy.
twice, 3 times,
Yeah.
maybe 4 times, but I never had a model run away from breaking. I just got tabled instead, which makes things nice and simple.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
So,
me,
what
yeah,
was Julian? What was the list you would be interested in taking next? Then
yeah, good question.
um, I think I don't know. I mean, I did actually quite enjoy playing Lothlorien.
Would you want to expand Lothlorien when
Yeah,
other heroes
when the
come
new
along?
book comes out, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, because I think I'll get some of the um Lorien Guard. No, the pikemen. They got
Yeah,
super pikes.
Galadrim
Um,
Court Guard.
Galadrim Court Guard. That's the one. Get some of them. Galadrim Knights. The model still exists, so I presume they'll
Oh yeah,
be in. And I think they're an interesting re-addition into the list. As I sort of say, I mean, it's a very static, stay in one place. You've got the mirror, which is amazing, but it's a heavy object, so you always have to think about moving that with you.
yeah, sure. Maybe I
Uh,
mean yeah, just even 1 or 2 cavalry models in a large army can give you
yeah.
that
do
maneuverability.
you
So
do you
I'd
think that
like to expand that, but I mean, on the side, I've been working on as Dunland has been cruelly taken from us. I have been working in the background on some of the plastic Dunlendings, which is
They are
I'm
very
going to
nice.
leverage into the Army of the White Hand, also Usurpers of Edoras or Assault on Helm's Deep. I think that's going to be interesting. No, is it Assault on Helm's Deep or
the Hornburg,
Assault
isn't
on
it?
the Hornburg? Assault on the
That's it.
Hornburg.
Yeah.
So that would be
Yeah,
fun and completely the opposite of a Lothlorien army.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's good to go between extremes, isn't it? In some ways,
yeah, or I should
with
do the
lists.
trolls.
Yeah, you feel free to take them.
Or Smaug. Let's buy Smaug.
Let's
Just
buy
Um,
buy
Smaug.
Smaug.
Yeah,
Just go all out and take Smaug next year. Yeah.
I actually would really love to go to an 800 point tournament with a 700 point list,
yeah.
and it's Smaug.
I think it would just be a lot of 25-minute games and buying your opponent's drinks.
Yeah, and then you'd play Hold Ground, and you'd be like, right, I win.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly,
uh,
exactly.
It's my gold hoard, not yours.
Yeah, yeah. For me, with the trolls, I think they're brilliant fun. Basically, if you want to go and have a laugh and you're not too bothered about winning, take the 3 trolls at any points limit really, other than well 400 and up, 400 to 1,000. It's nice that it's flexible. It's kind of cool.
mm,
Um, I think if you actually want to play competitively with them, I think 800 is a bit overtuned for them. They probably would work really well anywhere between 5 and 600, because there are um, 2, maybe 3 upgrades, which are incredibly mandatory, I think. Um, so uh, the there's the yeah
The Don't Get
the
Surrounded was one, wasn't it?
yeah
And I think the
the one
Campfire
that
was
allows you
the
to
other.
yeah, the one that allows you not to be surrounded when or trapped when you're surrounded. Sorry, so
Yeah.
you can't ever be trapped whilst you're standing. No troll ever got knocked prone. I think is
hmm
super essential because even at 500 points, you're going to be outnumbered like 30 to 1. So being trapped would be disastrous. Um, there were full bellies, which gives them 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate each, because without having 3 might and 3 fate per troll, the will is situationally useful. Super important. Otherwise, you just have nothing in the bag. Like I think one of them has like 1 might, 2 will, and 1 fate or something. Um, and the heroic strike um, copying. So there's an ability where they all gain heroic strike because only Bill has it naturally. And then if your opponent calls a heroic strike in combat with a troll, on a 4+, they get to copy it for free. And this was crucial all event. The 2 games I won against Thorin's company and all the games that I came very close were mostly won by a big nasty enemy hero being in combat with my troll, and my opponent having to make the decision of if they were going to strike, I might get it for free. So did they bother spending the point of might? And if they don't spend the point of might, then I'm already a fight higher than them usually because they were fight 7 base and then Bill is fight 8, which is really big. Um, I think those are the essential ones, and then the campfire. I think there were 4 upgrades. So there was the one that made the campfire an 18-inch banner. So it's normally a 6-inch banner, um, and it gives a banner effect, a +1 courage, and
Resistant to magic.
resistant to magic, which did come in useful. And the upgrade makes that 18 inches, which is, and if you put it in the middle of the board, is mostly the entire board. Most of the time, I think I was out of banner range in one game once, um, and yeah, all of those are super important because I think otherwise you'll get crushed, and that would make them a 600-point army, I believe, with those. No, yes, 600-point army, for 200 points of upgrades. I think they would work pretty well. Maybe you could drop the campfire one and just sit next to it. One of my favorites was Tasty Livestock, where basically you get to place 4 livestock markers at the beginning, end of deployment, and if you start your activation or any point of your activation within 3 inches of it, you can remove one from the board, and a troll regains a wound. We bought from Salute, we attended a couple of weeks ago, some little metal sheep, and I put them on bases and gave them really cute little flowery bases. And my trolls ate 7 sheep over the course of the weekend. I kept track of it, which was excellent fun. And then all the other upgrades you can probably argue about. There's one that gives them 4 attacks on the charge, which I think is pretty key.
I think
There's
that's
one I had.
the next take probably is the
I
4
think so,
attacks.
just because you have so many of the combats where some of the games where the trolls have charged in or have been charged, and my opponent would say, "Roll your dice, see if you get a 6," and I would roll my dice, and if I had 3 dice, you're that 1 dice less likely to roll the 6, and if you roll the 6, you can do what you need to do. If you don't roll the 6, you start getting in trouble really quickly. So yeah, and then all the other we could go through upgrades, but that's probably a whole separate video. Um, I would say they're excellent fun. It's a good crash course on how to use monsters. I'm a lot better with Barge and Hurl, and it's a really interesting part. I was never particularly good at it in the old edition, or I never played with monsters that much. And it's once you start getting into your head how like Barge is almost like having a free heroic combat, other than the downside is you don't kill anything in the first combat. And I did get greedy a few times and decided to barge against someone I should probably try and just kill, and then fought again and then lost the second combat. But most of the time, it was really useful utility ability.
It's also
Um,
it's better than heroic combat in the sense that it allows you to move through spaces that normally you can't.
and you get to back away your opponent's models 3 inches in any order you choose, which is really interesting. It's one of the only times you get to do that in the whole game. So you can then set up like a trap for your next
Mm.
combat because you then move 3 plus d3, but it gives you a minimum 4-inch move distance, which is a decent amount of distance. So yeah, really interesting. I don't think I used to hurl the whole weekend, mostly because they don't have great intelligence, and Tom, the dumb one, is one weaker in
Mm.
intelligence and courage.
Also,
He's a little baby.
did you match anyone that had a mounted hero?
Ooh, no, I don't think so. That's a
I
really
mean,
good point.
because I think that's when hurl is really useful.
That's when I
Um,
definitely would. I mean, we
It's
sort
when
of
it hurts.
yeah, well,
yeah.
we played. Me and Thomas played with your reclamation list, and I hurled a model from one combat into the combat with Boromir on the
Yeah,
horse and knocked him off the horse.
demounted from it. Yeah,
Because that's what you do. And I'm sorry, but
that
that's
is
what you got
that
to do.
is how you play it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to ask what were the prime targets you sneezed on? Because I think you mentioned Sauron earlier, but he
Balrog.
definitely wasn't the only target to be
No,
covered in snot.
I mean I think I did it at least once per game, but a lot of times it was just against like someone who might strike. The Balrog was satisfying, but then I think I lost the combat anyway.
Mm.
I think I didn't roll very
Yeah.
well. Sauron was hilarious because it made me win the combat, and I like the idea of the Dark Lord of the game, of the whole setting, getting sneezed on by a troll and that affecting him. Day 2, Burda, and then several dwarfs from both Thorin's company lists. Definitely Thorin and definitely Gloin. and I think Dwalin maybe in one of the other games because he had they all have strike and a fight 6, so they can threaten the trolls.
Didn't you fight
Uh,
the breaking as well in the first? Did you sneeze on
I
Yes.
did. I can't remember. I think he no. Tom died to archer fire before we even got into combat.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
Legolas, he's only defense 6, whereas the other two are defense 7. Legolas, I think, got fired 3 shots and got 2 5s, and he only had 2 wounds and no fate left because he like
Yeah.
focused him with all the elf bows and just went, I'll spend 2 points of fate to kill him.
Might. Yeah.
Um, like,
Yeah,
hey
it's
ho.
I
very
mean
sad.
that's definitely I mean to take that model off the table, easily worth it. Like
Yeah, yeah. Although less, because I think later in the game, um, like uh, Bill was surrounded by, say, like I think Aragorn had died, but it was like Boromir, Gimli, and Legolas, and each of them called a strike, and it was just like, okay, yeah,
mhm.
or like 2 of them called a strike or something. But definitely, it made my opponents do redundant strikes or redundancy strikes, which is interesting. Um, but yeah, it's a great fun list. You just find yourself having a laugh, basically. Um,
I mean the nice
you
thing
might have a game.
with the troll the free striking is you can just kind of wait for your opponent to call a
Yeah,
strike because you're like
yeah. A lot of the time, I was like, I'm gonna be boring and a bit of a bastard, but like, I'm not gonna call a strike. Are you gonna call a strike? Because you have to. Oh, you're calling one. Okay, I'll roll a 4 up and see if I
conveniently
can
I'm gonna
copy it.
copy it.
Yeah,
Like
and then sometimes if I didn't roll a 4 up, I then spent the point of might.
yeah.
But it's one of your main tricks, and it's what you've got to do. And I don't think anyone held it against me, hopefully. And a lot of the time it didn't work anyway because I lost 4 out of no 3 out of 6, and then drew one.
Mm.
Um, so but that's fine. It was good fun. I think the yeah, you take the list to have fun, and you are gonna probably make some good memories by sneezing on people. That's the ultimate aim. When else can you say you've spent a weekend sneezing on people and they thought it was funny?
What do you think you're going to take next? Or what army do you think you're
I
going to
honestly
work
don't
on
know.
next?
Well, it's just Hero. It's got a lot of days. I did buy, it's Julian's fault, a box of Warriors of Dale. So not Lake Town and not Lake Town Militia, Dale, because I've got in a box over there actually a pretty sizable army of Thrall from last edition, and they've been kind of languishing because they just don't fire my interest this edition. The army of Thrall is fine, but it doesn't excite me much. And then I think it was Saturday night we'd had a couple of beers and we were chatting about army lists, and I think you pointed out, Jules, that they you can have a combo army now, Erebor and Dale, where you get some Warriors of Dale and you get some Army of Thrall with all the heroes and Girion.
And decent bonuses.
Yeah, decent bonuses. Nothing game breaking, but interesting bonuses. They almost get like the Uglet Scout's Animosity. 2 heroes of legend, Thrall and Girion. Girion's sadly out of stock and is hilariously priced on eBay, so it won't be a while. It'll be a while before I bother
well, can play
um
it.
can play it. Yeah, but it's gonna be
Do,
it's gonna be a lot of fun, I think.
do you think you'll circle back to Rohan's? I know you. I know that is your first and greatest love.
I think so. I really want to
Yeah.
play Aemir and see how he is this edition.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
he's also maybe more low key than the others, but has definitely had a huge upgrade.
that is a dangerous subject. I could talk for a long time about Rohan
Yeah, I feel like we
this
could
edition.
fill an entire another podcast with this conversation over improved heroes.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll do that another time. I think that's probably enough from us. We've been going for a couple of hours now, but it was a lot to cover. 18 games or 17 games and a dropout over 2 days. I think I've got a better grasp on Middle Earth. I feel like I'm getting into like the experienced territory. I'm still not a good player, but I feel like I'm experienced and potentially make less mistakes. I was thinking about this the other day.
I mean, if we
Um,
had a tournament which was hobbits versus ringwraiths, I
oof,
think
yeah.
we'd probably be pretty good at that. Like we'd have that down. We'd just be like, yeah,
Especially if it was ring race with no might or fate and
yeah, yeah,
minimum
yeah.
will. Yep,
We'd know the plays there. We'd just be like, yep,
exactly. Just lose.
just walk slowly.
Need a
Uh,
Fellowship of the Ring with Bill list next.
I
That's
mean,
what.
yeah, obviously.
Oh, we've done that.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, you have done that. Yeah,
that's true.
you're going
So
to continue doing that, I believe. Yes.
we will. We will. I think that's a good way to round it off. We had a lot of fun at Scouring. I would recommend it, as I've said 2 or 3 times now, but definitely would recommend it. Thomas, thank you very much for coming on the show. This is our inaugural sort of online show. Um, Hopefully we'll be back with you now have a painted 800 point Gondor list, so hopefully you'll be
Mm.
back
Yes.
when
Yeah.
we
So
persuade you to come on the channel and play a game.
with your own list and
Well,
your own models, yeah, I think you
No,
can
they're
probably
half
convince
your
me to
models.
do
You've
that.
painted a good
So
chunk of
some
them.
of them are, yeah,
he's painted
some of them.
some of them.
Yeah, sure. You can come on and have
Only
a
the
game.
boring warriors. You don't let me do the heroes. Yeah.
You can paint any heroes you want.
You just have to
Grand.
buy them.
Yes, yeah. Well, you do have a fiefdom's army waiting in the wings for the third book.
Yeah, I do. I'm definitely waiting. Well, we could keep going, but yes, I'm definitely waiting for the Imrahil model to add to
Yeah,
my fiefdoms
that'll be
army.
very exciting.
So that'd be
You
very
have a pretty
nice.
nice fiefdom's army in the wings, so maybe we'll get that on. Who knows? But that'll be good. Any last thoughts, Jules?
Um, I think just yeah, it was a good game. All good games.
All good
Uh,
games.
Lothlorien, I think, is a real interesting list.
Hmm.
I
I
think
think you both did real well considering some of the matchups, and you both took. I think we took 3 pretty interesting but not overpowered lists. Hopefully,
yeah,
so
I
hopefully it
think
all
I
went
mean,
well.
you know, I think I was the top Lothlorien player, but I don't think that's as impressive as your own achievement as being the top three trolls player
I was the
at the
top three
event.
trolls player at the event. I was also the bottom 3 trolls player at the event,
Yeah, yeah.
and the most mediocre 3 trolls player at the event. Thomas, I don't know where you came in Gondor
I
lists.
think I
There
think
were
I
lots
was
of
the
them.
back of the Osgiliath list. I think
I
the
think there was
Osgiliath,
only a
the other
couple, but I think yeah, there was definitely one or two ahead of you. Um,
I think there was definitely one ahead of me who did quite well.
There were only
Uh,
2 Reclamation of Osgiliath lists, so there's only
yeah,
one other
I think there was
Reclamation
just the
list.
one.
Yep.
I definitely spoke to one of my opponents who faced both lists, and he said he was actually surprised there were no atop the walls players.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Who knows? Maybe people are waiting for the trebuchet. Maybe.
It's
Who knows?
available.
maybe.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Well,
in
no.
in in
I thought it was out
plastic,
of stock.
obviously.
I presumed
That'll
it was out
never
of stock.
turn up.
There we are.
Oh yeah, there was a someone took the reclamation of Osgiliath to 59,
Okay. Place 59th place.
59th place.
Okay.
So a little bit above you, Thomas.
Only
Yeah.
only a smidge. Yeah.
Yeah, only a
Yeah,
tiny
we
bit.
were all thoroughly mid to lower table, but that's where you have
Yeah.
fun anyway.
Uh, yeah, we didn't discuss, but there was an award for the most mediocre.
Yeah,
Um, and I
which
think
I think
I
is a really
must have
nice.
been very close to winning that because I was 41, and after the drops there was 82 players, so I don't know what happened.
Well,
I think you're
eh,
3-3, aren't you?
Yeah.
maybe you were
Yeah.
tied and someone won it on a tiebreaker, but who knows?
Oh, or maybe they did it based on because none of the top players got 6 wins.
Yep, they got 5 in a draw.
So I guess maybe if they went on a straight average, because only one person lost all their games, your friend Thomas. Um,
The other Tom, the
Not
wooden
not me,
spoon.
to clarify. Yeah.
Yep, yeah,
no,
the
no.
wooden spoon winner, who I helped very kindly along to his wooden spoon, an amazing sword. Um, yeah, I think you were very. I think you were the highest out of all 3 of us, Jules, and then it was me, and then it was you, Thomas. But
Yeah.
It
I
wasn't a huge
think
achievement though, because it didn't
no,
actually break into the top half.
no. And again, the bottom half's where people have fun and are a bit
Yeah,
more chill, and that's not our. We're not like GBHL 100 players, um, trying to uh, be the very best to
the best there ever
be a,
was.
exactly before we break into Pokemon song. So yeah, that's good. Thank you very much for watching and or listening because this will be the first video that is released in both spheres.
Hmm.
Um, Again, thank you for coming along, Thomas, and for chatting about your list. We will be coming back pretty soon with army list overviews. So me and Jules are going to start going through probably every army list in the game at the
Eventually.
moment. We've
Yep.
made a big list and we'll probably add to it when the third book comes out, or we will add to it when the third book comes out. And it'll be a sort of slow burn thing to go alongside our regular sort of um, recorded videos in person. It's not an instead of, it's an additional. Like I say, we're doing this because we can do it at home and add a bit more content to the channel. So if you have liked it, please do let us know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to wherever this is uploaded for audio only, and come join our Discord that Thomas very kindly set up. It's been a
I was
really
going to say, you
lovely place.
can't drag me along and not mention the Discord.
Oh no,
All that
absolutely. I was
effort
saving
of
best
half
for
an hour
last.
went into, you know.
We were saving best for last, but it's been a really fun one, or a really nice one. It's been a good little community we're building. This, I can't remember how many people in, but 30, 40 people or something like that. Maybe a few fewer, but and we've been chatting away, and it's good, like doing some bits and bobs. I've been posting some behind the scenes to the Discord, so if you want to get the videos a few hours, if not days earlier, jump on the Discord. You get some behind the scenes. I think with that, it's probably far too much waffling along. So all that's left is to say thank you from me and from Julian
It's goodbye from me.
and from Thomas
That's goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
and from me.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.